The committee whole is back in order. We're now on Bill number 262-38 LS as amended by the Committee on Finance and Government Operations, introduced by V. Anthony Ada, Christopher M. Duenas, Frank Blas Jr., Sabrina Salas Montanani, Shelley V. Calvo, Tina Rose Munya Barnes, Stella T. Tadagui. It's an act to appropriate the sum of $890,000 to Legislature of Guam for its cybersecurity and automations needed for fiscal year 2026. Vice Speaker Ada, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Bill 262-38 LS is an act to appropriate $890 to the Guam Legislature for its automation and cybersecurity needs for FY 2026. And I hope this appropriation is enough. I'm not sure, but I truly hope so. But the legislature will likely need to continue its support for these endeavors annually. All we need to do is look at any state legislature's website to see how far behind the norm we are in terms of information we have available. State legislatures use one of 4 software solutions to manage and the public legislative information. They use professional AI-based software to transcribe public hearings and sessions that could likely, over time, learn tomorrow names, places, and words spoken in the hearings. The general public sees our website, our TV feeds on Docomo and GTA, and our YouTube channel. All of these need major improvements. Our television feeds, which are a hallmark of our transparency requirements, need major improvements, including a direct real-time stream. This service is available only to Docomo and GTA paid TV customers. YouTube feeds, unfortunately, are beyond our AV personnel's control, and delayed streams can be several minutes behind. Internally, our central staff and senatorial offices need the tools to do their job more effectively, efficiently, and accurately. There are many research services that the Guam Legislature has access to but never use. These include Westlaw, LexisNexis, and LegisPro. Immediately, the legislature's cybersecurity needs will consume most of the appropriation, if not all. The GovGuam cybersecurity team, in a meeting with our MIS staff and executive director, hinted that the actual cost for the legislature could exceed $1.2 million. This appropriation might only get us through the remainder of this fiscal year. The work will not end when I leave office at the end of this term. This appropriation will create at least a foundation for future legislatures to build upon. I ask my colleagues to please vote in favor of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Vice Speaker, and so we will now continue with this round on this bill. Senator Gumatauta, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions for this particular round. Thank you.
Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, are we going to have any of the legislative staff on the panel to answer questions? Or maybe I just would start with Mr. Byrne. So the bill is appropriating $890,000 from, I think the language, if I'm not mistaken, is excess reserves?
Excess revenues.
Excess revenues. Okay. It actually says, I think it says excess reserves. Excess reserves, yeah. So can you explain?
No. I think in brackets.
From excess accumulated general fund revenues.
No, it says, yes, revenues.
And then in parentheses, it says excess reserves.
I don't know what that means.
Oh.
Revenues, I understand.
Maybe if anybody on the panel could explain what that is, because I did have some constituents asking. Does anybody have an answer? Mr. Chair?
Excess revenues is enumerated in there. I would only speculate that excess reserves are reserves that are implemented usually by BBMR as a course of natural action within any fiscal year. Having served in the executive branch for 12 years, that happened to me as a director quite often, that reserves were imposed on agencies which created the excess revenue.
Mr. Byrne, are you able to concur? Or, I mean, that's how the chair has indicated it was done, years ago when he was in the executive branch. How about today in 2026?
BBMR's reserve ability doesn't extend to the legislature. There are certain entities that are excluded from the ability for BBMR to impose a reserve. The legislature is one of them.
Okay, I only ask because I've only been a senator. This is my 4th year, and I haven't seen this language before. And we just got lectured yesterday about the lack of available cash for the power credits. And so, as a lawmaker, when we're trying to find funding sources that have cash in them, I'm only asking because now I think some of my colleagues are wondering how much is in this excess reserves and if it's a funding source that we're able to tap for other things besides the legislature's cybersecurity needs.
I was just proceeding on the assumption that we were talking about excess revenues and that the words in parentheses, I think they were meant to be descriptive, but I don't think they really are.
Okay, so I guess if we're to assume these are just excess accumulated general fund revenues and the excess reserves is just there for decoration or whatever the case may be, what's it look like with our excess accumulated general fund revenues?
So I know this talks about February the 1st, but since then we've issued the CRER for February 28th. The excess revenues, and these are in thousands, right? So the excess revenues for fiscal 26 as of February 28th were 48,180,000. Appropriations against that have been 32,254,000, and there was an additional appropriation of 13,100,000 for SNAP and WIC local contributions. So the net of all that is 2,826,000. But I'm also going to suggest that this body deappropriates the balance of the WIC that wasn't used, SNAP and WIC that wasn't used, because the federal government came in the second half of October and paid it. So that would release about 7,102,000. So the available excess revenues would be 9,928,000.
So in layman's terms, are you saying that we have $890,000 that we can take from excess accumulated general fund revenues?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. Mr. Pareto? Good. Buenas. Good afternoon.
So Mr. Pareto is going to be sworn in at this time for questions.
Oh, stand.
Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I solemnly swear.
Mr. Chair is under oath. You may proceed.
Please proceed, Senator Burnett.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, Mr. Pareto. You know, I'm glad you're here because I was not able to attend the public hearing on the bill, but I do have a lot of concerns that have been shared with me since the start of the term, and I think we saw some of these issues towards the latter half of the 37th, but this is relative to the interruption of the live stream of our sessions and our public hearings. This morning I had to attend an event, so I wasn't able to make it, but when I was driving, I had popped on the live stream, and it had gone intermittently from the stream of the session to a screen that said private page, and then it had also jumped to another screen that had said, I think it was something along the lines of the owner of the page has opted not to share the video. Yeah. And that's just this morning, so pretty much every day when we have these sessions, we get calls from constituents that say the live stream jumped, and then there are issues with the posting of these sessions. So can you just first speak to what causes these interruptions in the live stream?
Absolutely. So, okay. Yeah, half a day, I'm Justin Pareto, the MIS manager here at the Guam Legislature. And yes, to answer the question, MIS recently conducted an investigation, and we found out that YouTube itself, when it comes to political content, their automated algorithm is censoring. It's automated and it's censoring. So, like, the best course of action would be to either work with our congressmen and file an appeal to, because it's basically censorship.
Are you able to elaborate any more? So are you trying to say that the algorithm which kind of decides what content is shown to what user is cutting off the stream because it's, what are you saying, the algorithm is looking at these sessions as a form of political content?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's basically, it's an automated system, and it's whenever we talk about hot button issues or anything political, it seems to be censoring. So it's making the video private because it's too controversial, I guess. I can't really speak for YouTube, but I think one step we should take is definitely reach out to either YouTube or the proper authorities, and because they are disrupting our service. Right. I'm 100% agree with you, and it is a hindrance for the legislature.
I mean, we have all kinds of laws that we have to comply with relative to the open government, and in this era of I don't want to say increased technology. Yeah. I'm not sure our people have more access to the goings-ons of the sessions here. But does this have anything to do with the type of account that we have? Are there other state governments and legislatures that use YouTube as their primary streaming platform, or are we kind of like the last ones?
Well, this is fairly common also with state legislatures' YouTube accounts. So I believe it's just in general the algorithm, like, it needs to be tweaked to offer more nuance, because it's just a blanket scan that's taking down political content. So this is more of a deep-seated political issue. But I also like to add that our networking equipment, is having we've had some issues, but MIS was able to try to mitigate that, but we still have a long way to go.
So, Mr. Pareto, are you saying that if we watch, for example, the Michigan legislative channel on the YouTube, that it's also going to be cutting off and going to private page, et cetera?
Yeah, most likely, I would say.
Have you received anything in writing from YouTube relative to this?
Not so much. It's strictly based off of articles I've read, and we've tested it. We tested it privately, so that's all really the proof I can offer right now.
Okay, because and that isn't necessarily a cybersecurity issue, correct?
Well, it is a disruption of our service, so
Right.
it's I would still consider it an issue though, but and this is just, and mind you, YouTube is just one of the spokes in the whole machine right here. Like we have other issues that we need to address.
Relative to the
Relative to this
sanctity
bill.
of the live stream?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Relative to the sanctity of the live stream, let me just quit beating around the bush. My question is this $890,000 appropriation
Yeah.
going to do anything to improve our live stream with YouTube? Because it doesn't really sound like it. It sounds like, like you said, it's a YouTube problem. And you know, outside of all the cybersecurity threats that you've discussed, I think this is, in my mind, one of the big issues that we hear from the people of Guam is they're trying to keep track of what their elected representatives are doing, and they can't.
Yeah.
So does this $890,000 do anything to improve the disruption of the live stream, which you say is a YouTube?
I would say yes on the networking side to increase stability, because we also have had drops, just straight up network drops. So it's better to harden our backing infrastructure to prevent that side of the issue. But with the YouTube side, yes, that would be another concern. 'Cause there's multiple factors that go into the issues you've been experiencing, is what I'm trying to say.
So what's the percentage split on that? So you're saying we need network equipment to avoid disruptions that are on our end, but it kind of seems like, just from what you said, that most of the disruptions are coming from the YouTube side.
I never said most of the disruptions are coming. I'm just saying that is one of the contributing factors.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah.
Senator Jalai, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Byrne, you said we have, what's the amount? You said we have about $2.8 million still available for FY26, kind of like that's excess revenues?
Yes.
And then you said, in addition to that, we have half of SNAP, which is $7 million?
If the legislature deappropriates
Okay.
the
And then-
balance.
In your calculations of the excess, are you including the 20 million to GMH and the 5 million to DOC in the FY26 budget?
No, because that was an appropriation from the net unobligated fund balance for fiscal 26, and therefore can't be ascertained until you get to the end of fiscal 26. It's not a revenue appropriation, it's a fund balance obligation, which basically you can't determine until the end of the year the way that the words are written.
All right, so we pretty much misled GMH that they're going to ever get that 20 million and DOC the 5 million. That's not going to happen until in FY26 until, and now all the excess that we're getting, it's not going to go towards that either. It's going to go towards other projects like this.
We did tell, at one of the hearings, I know it was mentioned to GMH that they weren't going to see anything from that appropriation until the end of the year. And I believe their interim CEO acknowledged it.
So that's 25 million for GMH and DOC not going to be seen while we're appropriating this. It's also, the governor vetoed the FY26 budget, and she said at that time that it's because the appropriations exceeded the revenue that we were projecting for FY26. She also said that, well, we've heard since then from you or Lester that the governor or you guys have refused to allow agencies like Customs and Police Department and others to get their carryover from FY25, which we authorized in the FY26 budget as well. Another pot of money that these agencies said was critical to them. They needed it, and without it, it was, impairing what they had planned to do during FY 2026. Is that still the case, that they're not getting their carryovers from FY 25 because of lack of funds?
Well, as I indicated, at the moment there's only just under 3 million available. The problem, again, with the way that appropriation is written is it's not enumerated in a number, and there's no priority given to any of the agencies.
Right.
So somehow we would all have to determine which agency was entitled
Right.
to which
So-
slice and
okay.
when it was available.
So it was determined that they've been told that they're not going to get their carryover. If we give this money to the legislature, are they going to get their carryover amounts, to customs and GPD?
It depends upon, if we continue to get excess revenues for the remainder of the year, and we've been doing pretty well this year, then,
You would give
then
that-
some sums would be available.
If you had excess revenues like you do today, you would give that to them without any appropriation?
Well, I don't, you know my view on it, that wording is flawed, just simply to allow agencies to
Carry over?
to carry over, because first of all, the implication is that they should have spent it in the previous year
Yeah,
when it
but-
was appropriated.
It's the same language, isn't it, that's been used in maybe the last 5 budgets?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But I would say that from my experience, Guam is the only place that allows these
Yes.
unfunded carryovers.
It's 9 years or 8 years later. But it's just, to me, it's critical. They said it's critical. We said we're going to give it to them. So, yeah, that we are looking at. There's also a list of, so the 20 million for GMH, the 5 million for DOC, the carryover funds for customs, the carryover fund for GPD, and other agencies, they're not going to get that. The other lists of bills that we've made for power credits, Hagåtña Mayor's Office, GUMA, UOG, CIP projects, DPW road projects, DISIT services, GW wastewater infrastructure, workers' comp, behavioral health psychiatric treatment, residential treatment, the airport's fuel arrears, Manila public health refurbishment, the coastal paddling program, and FQ Sanchez. All of those are for FY26 excess funds as well. And obviously, we can't meet those if we're giving the FY26 funds away to the legislature. And then the governor also said that in FY27, we need a 4.5% BPT. In other words, we could not afford another reduction of the BPT because she says we needed it to fund financing of Simon Sanchez High School and the Department of Corrections modernization and an unanticipated loss of federal funds. I guess that's just my concern. I guess you can see it. But I have a question for you, Mr. Pareto. So you're saying now that you conducted an investigation of why our YouTube is shutting us off, and it's because of political speech?
Yes.
All right. And when did you do that investigation?
Just last week.
Okay. Yeah, because on February 16th, I had heard that from other personnel here in the office, in the legislature, that they already knew that.
Yeah.
For months now, but your investigation only happened last week. And in February, I asked you, this is our main issue because we are subject to the open government law. We're advertising that we are going to be broadcasting even over YouTube. And then when we go off, we're not cutting the session and waiting until we're broadcasting again, like all other agencies are required to do. Mm-hmm. But you said at that time that it's because we have inadequate equipment. It's our equipment that's taking us offline, not the YouTube. And you said absolutely yes.
Yeah, that's also a contributing factor. As
Yeah.
I said, there's multiple contributing factors.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Senator Talai. Chairman Duenas, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ed, the 9 million appropriation in fiscal year 2025, how did you transfer that to CLTC?
I'm not sure it has been transferred to CLTC.
So CLTC had a board meeting and they announced that they had made the preparations for expenditure in fiscal year 2026. The same arrangement we have for the 20 million excess revenue for GMH, and you're saying you have not dispersed that revenue to them?
I believe I'd be waiting for their request to do so.
But the money's available.
From what, well, if we resolve all this, yes, the money's available.
If we resolve what?
All what really concerns me and requires resolving is the priority to all these different demands for money. Who gets it first? You know, you could argue that CLTC, because it was a prior year one, could get it first. But until you end up with sufficient unobligated balances to liquidate all these obligations, I guess it's kind of who comes first.
So Ed, you didn't deposit that $9 million into their account?
No.
Yet they announced to the public in a board meeting and made distributions and made plans for that $9 million that was appropriated by this legislature.
I will await their request.
Vanessa, OFB, Customs was mentioned earlier. Can you tell me what their current lapsing is for this fiscal year?
Let me just calculate it real quick. So just based on the information provided by the February 28, 2026 CRER, in the back, just looking at their amounts shown, just a quick calculation, they're anticipating to lapse around $3 million.
Ed, who on God's green earth would worry about carryover appropriations to an agency when they're currently lapsing $3 million in their current fiscal year?
Well, that's a really difficult question, who it would be, but I get the point is that if an agency consistently lapses funds year on year, you certainly would want to examine how they budget and how they appropriated funds.
Ed, can you go through the list of appropriations that are eating up the current excess revenue in current year that you came out with your total? Can you name all of those appropriations and how they've netted you only about a little bit over $2 million in excess revenue?
Well, basically, Chairman, they're set forth on page 8 of the CRER for fiscal 26.
We have public that watches very closely, so I want to hear it on the record,
Okay.
under oath.
There's the rainy day fund, which is 10 million. There's the Simon Sanchez leaseback payments, which is 16.3 million. There's a cancer trust fund, which is 340,000. There's CME operations, that's a medical examiner, $500,000. There's PBS operations, 970,000. There's the PDSA private attorney panel, 838,000. Foster Care Division, 39,000. DPHS Harvest House Resource Center, 35,000. Behavioral Health Level 2 Residential Services, 1.7 million. Sorry, that was MC. The 1.7 million was Mayor's Council. Jibwick Level 2 Residential Services, 1.2 million. And there's 150,000 for the Fishermen's Co-op. And the 138,000 for commission operations.
So we have a correction on customs. It's actually currently tracking $13 million in lapse funds. And so I just want to continue here. Ed, you know, so it sounds to me like there was a number of programs rattled off that aren't getting their appropriations, but they're being handled by current tracking of excess revenue.
Yes. Yes, I would agree.
Okay. Ed, since we've gone here, I didn't think we were going to do with the budget yet, but we'll go ahead and start. So this discussion on the 4.5 and the governor's submittal. The governor submitted a budget at $1.44 billion, correct?
I believe so. I don't have those figures in my head, but it sounds about right.
Okay. Vanessa, what's the current impact on BPT in terms of the February 20 CRER, or the March 20 reflecting February? What is the current BPT impact of the 0.5%? Just show the tracking of BPT.
So just based on the February CRER, it is tracking for BPT. Well, it's showing favorable of a 9 million, close to 10 million. So we're not having a shortfall. We're tracking over.
Ed, we keep talking about this $40 million that we're gonna, you know, and I've been going to church. It's Lent, and I've got rosary beads. But right now, we're actually tracking excess revenue in BPT. Do you concur?
Well, we're tracking an excess over the estimated, but it's a deficit against last year.
What's the deficit as of last year?
10.5 million.
Far cry from 40 so far?
It is, but we're not all the way through the year.
But it's performing for the adopted level.
Yes, some of that, of course, may be due to those that are still paying at the higher rate because they're the larger payers. And I don't have that information. I'm just assuming that to be the case.
And it's 10 below last year, but 10 above adopted.
That's what the figures say.
It sounds like a wash to me.
Let's hope it keeps that way.
Join me in the rosaries. Ed, has GMH requested any revenue from the 20 million?
No, because they understood the situation.
Has DOC requested any of the money from the 5 million?
No, but I don't think they're in a position yet to request it. I don't think their project is far enough along to actually need funds yet.
So at this point in time, there's no demand on those revenues. If they request it towards the end of the fiscal year, which we're already pretty much halfway through, you could see to it if funds are available.
Yes, sir. Of course, if funds are available, yes.
Have you communicated with GMH in terms of their current projects? Because from what I understand, maybe our health chair will enumerate on this, but understand that they're on track right now, and all of the projects that are currently underway are fully funded?
We've certainly been paying out some money under the previous appropriation for CIP projects. We made a payment a couple of days ago. So as far as I know, yes, the CIP projects are on track. But I think it's like 3 weeks since we had our meeting, so hopefully they're still on track.
So Ed, you talked about debt service for Simon Sanchez, which we put in their transfer authority. It's pretty obvious that you made it the appropriation of the excess revenue, which means it's appropriated because you've taken it out of the fund balance, correct? Excess revenue?
Yes.
So there's no more phantom appropriations, non-appropriations for the, given the tracking of the revenue and what you've done with you under your fiscal construction.
Now, the big concern, as you heard me say to Senator Lahi, is the unenumerated, unexplained continuing appropriations, which I can't evaluate from in the beginning or the middle or the end of the year, because I really don't know what they are. But as you pointed out, many of those same agencies are looking to repeat the underspending this year.
Vanessa, I know this is a Steve question, but you're here, so I know that it was discussed between all of us when we had a recent meeting at BBMR that, and if you just go through the CRER, my good colleagues, every single category is lapsing with the exception of two, anywhere from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars. Can you put that on the record?
Yes, Senator. So based on our analysis in our office, we were just looking based on the CRER, the information that was available to us, just tracking it. It shows that each division or agency is lapsing, whether it be in the hundred thousands or even in the millions.
So I guess I'll just ask my last question, Ed. So we can afford this $800 and some odd $1,000 for the upgrade to the legislature?
Yes, yeah, you can afford it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Chairman Duenas. Senator Salas-Montanan, you have any questions?
Sure, I can ask maybe a couple. Well, just, based on my recollection of the public hearing on this bill, something that I heard from you, Justin, was basically that we've been having these issues and these problems. It's not something that's new. They've been happening. This system is old. So what was done in the last legislature to kind of address some of these problems that we're talking about?
Well, they're using the same equipment that they've been using since they've moved into this building. I can confirm that. And the networking connections have been very patchwork, Band-Aid fixes. So like majority of the last year, my main primary job was basically cleaning up that network, trying to map it out. And there was never any segmentation between organizational units. So like anybody from the clerk's office, like if they were hacked, then they could, a bad actor could easily get into the financial systems and start funneling off money. Like Mr. Byrne is familiar with the recent incident, and I'm sure he did everything in his power, him and OTEC did everything in their power to try to mitigate it and recover, but like, yeah, pretty much it's just, like, I've worked in government of Guam, and we are way behind. I was baffled by just seeing like our network equipment. It's a consumer grade, like something you would buy off of the shelf. It's not made for enterprise, and I would classify the Guam Legislature as an enterprise organization because not just central operations, but the 15 outside senators' offices, and these senators' offices are just at the mercy of their internet service provider. Most of them don't have any adequate firewall protection or any kind of things to.
So basically nothing was done in the last legislature, right? Just some Band-Aid fixes, and here we are in the 38th Guam Legislature, and we're trying to do something about it. Thank you for just kind of reinforcing what we've been having to deal with in this current legislative body.
But yeah,
So-
Senator Salas Mazzanani, I'd like to thank you and Ms. Heidi Ballendorf for getting us in contact with the OIPD. Like,
Right,
we
the
had a very
Office of
productive
Infrastructure.
meeting, and
So is that something that you think that, did they say that the legislature might be able to qualify under a community anchor institution?
Oh,
Or
absolute-
eligible for any of that BEAD funding?
absolutely. Like right now, they're currently in the process of formalizing our relationship through an MOU, and Jacobs Engineering, who was
Right.
contracted by them, they're currently working on a non-disclosure agreement because we would have to share restricted information so they can do a deep dive and find all of our vulnerabilities, and we can use that gap analysis to really find our vulnerabilities and patch it up. And it's a great bridge between all three branches of government too, because we all share the same ideology when it comes to cybersecurity.
I'm glad you guys are able to tap into OIPD and hopefully get access to that $156 million in BEAD funding.
Oh yeah.
But just so that the public, they're kind of clear, can you kind of talk about, the reasons why, or even cite any specific failures as to why this $890,000 investment is urgent and it is needed?
Well, yeah, as I was saying, the legislature is a main governing body, and we're definitely vulnerable to the same cyber attack. And I would say Mr. Burns' setup is leagues ahead of ours, so it would be even worse for us.
That's all the questions I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sudas Masi, Senator Montanani. Okay, Senator San Augustine, any questions?
No, just comments. This body has talked about cybersecurity, and all the cybersecurity in the world. It's an opportunity to get funds to make sure we're covered for cybersecurity. So I'm in support of the bill. I'm just trying to understand that. Can we just move along and let's be happy folks and protect our system? And let's move on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sudas Masi, Senator San Augustine. Senator Vice Speaker Tony Yada, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Justin, how vulnerable is this body at this current state?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you because you repeat your comment.
How vulnerable is this body at this current state?
Like, I would say, honestly, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, my house is more secure than the legislature right now.
And isn't that a grave concern to you being in MIS?
Like, I work 12 hours a day here at the legislature, and I lose sleep over this, sir. And it's very hard to do my job properly when it's all patchwork.
When we first came in the 38th Guam Legislature and you came on board, what was your first thoughts about the networking system here in this legislature, the everything that runs this body?
I was completely baffled by the setup. Like, I've never seen anything like it.
Antiquated, would you say?
Very antiquated, yeah. It's antique.
Very antique, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine, because it hasn't been updated in what are the equipment that you've seen in there for the past, when you say that was dated?
Like, I would say
It's older than you?
a lot of the essential ones are now, they're from 2014.
Yeah.
But in terms of the digital landscape, like that's like light years, because technology is constantly changing. Like, we constantly need to be reevaluating, and upgrading our systems like at least every 5 years, and that's normal for government. I think Mr. Byrne would agree with me there.
Yeah. So, do you think this is enough to cover what needs to be done in this body?
Nah, I wouldn't. I've conducted my initial market research before when I was pitching the idea to you, and it's only a fraction of it. Like, even we've spoken with Jacobs Engineering, and they said it would cost like roughly in the millions.
Yeah.
At least $2 million just to get started, like just get our baseline established.
Yeah, exactly. So, would you say that then, being at this state, how far do you think we would get with this measly appropriation of $890,000?
Like maybe establish a baseline.
Yeah.
Like it's within the realm of possibility, but it's going to be a very tight.
So had this issue been updated year after year after year? Have they gone back the 20 years that, and just constantly update the security system, the networking system and everything over the past years? We probably wouldn't need that much money, and we probably would have been in a better shape than we are today.
Absolutely. Like we could have established a baseline like before we even moved into this building, and then slowly reevaluate and upgrade our systems, and it would have saved us a lot of money. But I can't speak for previous legislatures, but that's. But as a professional looking in, that's what I see.
It says a lot about the leadership then, right? That they didn't care about this this body because they just let things fall to the wayside, and that we are so vulnerable to hackers, aren't we?
Well, that's not my place to say.
You wouldn't want to say it, right?
No comment. Yeah.
Yeah, your house is more secure than our house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I think that for the bashing that perhaps you gotten over in the public hearing, and now the questioning that you've gotten, and I'm glad that you answered and you came straight forward what this body is going through and what this body is supposed to, where this body should be. So thank you for coming out, and I'm glad that we got you on board to help get us to where we need to go. And hopefully, like I said, we may not be able to get everything done by the time this term ends, but at least we're establishing something, and that it'll get us there.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Monty, Vice Speaker Ada. Senator Cabo, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't really have a lot of question. Well, no question at all, but I do have remarks. I recognize the importance of security, especially in IT, especially in the line of work that we do. And I fully support this measure. On that note, I yield the rest of my time to the next speaker.
This is Monty, Senator Cabo. Senator Taitigui, you recognize? Yeah. Senator Taitigui, you have your 5 minutes, as per the rules.
I'm sorry, say again?
Yeah, you have your 5 minutes, as per the rules.
Yes, I know. She was thinking to yield her time to me, but the rest, but you can't. Yeah, I was just explaining that that's not doable. But I appreciate that, Senator Cowell, so much for giving me, let her retract her comments. Okay, no worries, no worries. We get 2 rounds, yes, Mr. Chair?
No, we're only doing 1 round per bill.
Oh, only 1 round, and then what the second round?
Well, the second round will be for comments and amendments. So there will be a second round on all bills for comments and amendments. This is questions of the panel, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Byrne, you talked about earlier the CRER for February. And, for me, when I look at the CRER report, I look at page 3, which basically gives us the last month's cumulative altogether and how much is left over. So I'm looking at an excess revenue for February at $48,180,000. Is that a correct number from the CRER report?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And then what happens is that you go through and show us the shortfalls on the special funds, which is a good thing because, these special funds carry a lot of weight to certain agencies and people who need the funding there. So we're looking at a negative $23,274,692, correct? Okay.
Yes, but there's an extraordinary figure there. This period, which is the shortfall on the Educational Facilities Fund, which is dependent on property taxes,
right.
which I sincerely hope we will catch up with during the course of the year.
Yeah, by next CRER report.
No, not by
No?
but over the next few months.
The next couple months then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made sure I paid my property tax yesterday.
Thank
so
you.
hopefully.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, everybody, actually in my office, we all made that run down because we know that there's issues down at Rev and Tax as far as doing anything online at this point. So, yeah, it may be later than sooner. Mr. Byrne, in the language of the bill where it's appropriating the 800,000 plus, is there a language in there that would allow us to use this excess revenue that we are seeing on paper and basically make sure that as soon as this bill passes, that the governor has to put this money to use? What is that language?
Well, I think the language is okay, except for the language that's in those parentheses that appears to be confusing. And I think if you delete it, the word's okay. But could I just say also, in respect to the payment of property taxes, the DOA is open for business. So anybody wishing to pay any tax, please come to DOA.
Yes, they just can't do it online right now. Yeah. That being said, Mr. Burns, so to just eliminate the excess revenues to make it, but actually technically in the past when bills have been passed regarding funding, the governor has yet to pay out some of those appropriations that this body has made. For instance, we talked about the hospital, we talked about, DOC. So I just want to make sure that the language in here require, hands down, as soon as this bill passes, she has to pay this out. And how soon can she pay this out if we're having excess revenue that is showing right now?
Well, thank you, Senator. I think that goes to the point that I was making earlier about how do we set priorities for this. I mean, basically, that is the prerogative of the governor to set those priorities if you cannot immediately pay out everything because we haven't got to the end of the year. But the governor is concerned about cybersecurity, as are all senators and Mr. Paredo. So I certainly would advise her that this would be a priority to pay out.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that needs to be archived and stored here. And that being said, there's still no language that you have for me right now that I can put into this bill to ensure that the money gets appropriated to this body right away.
No, I mean, from time to time, I'm personally asked at hearings and things to pay out money, although it's the prerogative of the governor, I do listen.
Okay. What if we put in language into this section where it says that the sum of $890,000 from excess accumulated general fund revenues must be given priority over any other expenditures?
I'm not really sure what that would do. I mean, I get the purpose of those words, but if you're just speaking to me, I will make sure that money gets sent.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the legislature, as far as the system is concerned, what kind of data storage are you looking at with the funding that's, if it comes your way, are you going to be using? And have you actually looked at some data system setup that OTEC has right now? I think we had that conversation at one time, but can you clarify the importance of data storage and also the software that you're going to be using?
Yeah, so basically we like to store our backups of our main server, and also part of our modernization plan is that we'd like to purchase an additional server, so in the event of a catastrophic event or a cyber attack, we could just instantly switch to, it would mirror the main server, so we can instantly switch to the new server and with minimal data loss and no
interruption.
And then the time, the recovery time would speed up. And to answer the second part of your question, we have looked into OTEC, and I've spoken to B, and I had the opportunity of evaluating the their actual data center, but MIS, we feel that because of a lot of contributing factors, such as it's in a flood zone, and they've had problems with rats because it's a very old building, that it doesn't meet our standards, basically. Yeah, because we want to do this right. We don't want to just toss it anywhere. We want to have it in a proper off-site location, and.
Yeah, exactly right. In fact, OTEC is in such a disarray with their data systems and holding other areas. Yeah. So, Mr. Burns, I hope you can also advocate for OTEC, because the situation they're in right now, if anything happens there, and it could be as simple as just a flood, and that would actually take it down. I mean, it's already showing there's asbestos, in that room too. So, I hope there's something that you can look into that.
Yes.
That building is really bad.
Yes, if talking just about cybersecurity, as a layman, I understand that it requires both hardware and software to effectively increase or boost your resistance to cyber attacks. And I know OTEC is looking at that. I'm not sure exactly where they are with the project.
And with IT, what is the length of time, on the software, when you purchase the software?
Yeah.
What is the longevity of software these days before it changes?
Most like major providers, such as Microsoft, Google, they usually do a subscription-based service. So if for the duration of how long you're subscribed to it, you would get the latest and greatest version. But I would give if you get a perpetual version that you own forever, the turnaround is usually 5 years. Like, it should be upgraded every 5 years, because you're not going to get all the new advanced features, and then they end the life for the security patches, so you leave yourself in a vulnerable state.
Maybe it's a suggestion you can give also the director of the legislature to actually put aside funding for technology, cybersecurity, the use of AI in the workplace too as well.
And I'd just like to add that, so I've worked in Gov Guam, and every agency, you're allotted email storage and all that. Just the employees up to the executives, and so currently, in order to use for the .gov domain, if any of our employees want to utilize it, Central Operations is providing that, but right now the executive director is paying out of her own pocket, because that was never set up properly. Like previous administrations, the executive director had to bear the financial burden of that. So in order to provide, I just want to comment on that. Yeah.
Mr. Bierman, one of the questions I have is that $9 million we talked about, WIC, the WIC, and then $2 million after. That's not incorporated in this excess revenue, right? The 48, or is that from FY25?
In the reconciliation that I went through, the 13 million was included.
Okay. 13 million. Okay. Other than that, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity, and thank you both to IT department and the legislature. And remember to ask them to set aside funding, because technology, it's as soon as it's introduced, there's a newest one that's even less costly than the last one. So, setting aside funding is so important for this moving forward. It's maintenance that we need to have an account for. Okay, other than that, thank you, Mr. Byrne, too, as well.
Susmasi, Senator Taitagui, and now we have finished round one on bill number 262-38 LS. We'll now begin discussions on bill number 205-38 COR. Senator San Augustine introduced this, but I'm going to take just a 30-second recess to bring Rev and Tax back in, because we let them stretch their legs, as we really didn't have questions for them on the last bill. 30-second recess. The committee of the whole is back in order. Senator San Augustine has introduced Bill 205-38 along with Tina Rose Munoz Barnes and myself as co-sponsors. This is an act to amend subsection 6802E of Article 8, Chapter 6, Title 11, Guam Code Annotated relative to the discount on the purchase of tobacco tax stamps. And so now I'll recognize Senator San Augustine. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and my colleagues, currently in Guam law, the discount provided to the licensee for purchasing tobacco tax stamps from the government of Guam stands at 0.4%, a rate established by Public Law 34-55 in 2017. However, because licensees are now required to comply with affixing tax stamps, DRT required them to produce stamps and comply with the law. The cost of compliance, encompassing the administrative, machine purchase, and material aspects of affixing tax stamps, has increased considerably due to procurement and maintenance of machines, inflation, and changing market conditions. As a result, the original discount no longer adequately offsets the expense faced by licensees, creating a financial hardship that threatens business sustainability and regulatory compliance. The proposal to increase the discount on tobacco tax stamps to 3 3/4% is not arbitrary. It is a calculated response to the economic realities confronting tobacco distributors. The bill aims to provide a more predictable and equitable form of compensation, directly addressing the increased costs associated with affixing the required tax stamp. This discount is simply to cover the cost of machine equipment and stamp materials, training to operate and maintain equipment, personnel to affix stamps on each pack, reseal cartons and cases, which has eroded the practical value of the original discount since its 2017 establishment. A fixed rate discount of 3.75% establishes a clear and consistent standard for reimbursement, reflecting the true cost of compliance in today's economic climate. This predictability is essential for licensees as they plan their operations and manage expenses while preserving the integrity of Guam's tobacco tax stamp by making compliance attainable. In summary, Bill 205 is a necessary and timely measure that responds to the evolving needs of Guam's tobacco licensee. By updating the discount rate for tobacco tax stamp, the bill ensures that business can continue to operate lawfully and sustainably while maintaining the government's regulatory priorities. At the end of the day, the licensees are doing what the government of Guam should be doing, preparing and issuing stamps to licensees to affix to products. I urge the passage of Bill 205 to promote fairness and compliance and economic stability within Guam tobacco distribution sector, and I ask for my colleagues' support. Mr. Chairman, just for little information for my colleagues, I used to be the compliance supervisor, and I'll tell you what, if folks remember way back over 10 years, there was somebody that was arrested at revenue and tax and even at customs because they contributed in the sale or in the importation and sale of cigarettes that were not being regulated. And this was one of the issues why back then my colleague, I think it was Senator Snickers, was pursuing this, and we were part of that group, and we've been trying, and there's several of us there have been participating. We need to get this going. Now that the distributors are participating, it's moving along. It will help the compliance branch at Revenue and Tax spot them, tag them, and close the shops if they need to and collect the taxes they need to collect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator San Augustine, it's your prerogative as it's your bill. You want to ask your questions now or wait for the rotation?
I'll wait for the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, you're recognized at this time. Speaker Brang-Blas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And once again, thank you for the panel for being here. For revenue and tax, what is currently the volume in as far as the sales of the tax stamp?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
The current volume of sales for the tax.
Volume of cigarettes? I'm sorry, I don't have that information with us here today. Yes.
Okay,
We don't, yeah, we don't have that right now. I'm sorry.
to borrow a term that was used in a previous, give me the grandma and grandpa version of what this bill proposes to do. It reduces the amount of the tax stamp from 0.4% to 3.75%. What does that mean in actual dollars?
So what it's saying is that the discount is being increased from 0.4% to 3.75%. Currently, the tax rate is $20 per 100 cigarettes. And so that's prorated per pack, so it's about $4 a pack. That's the tax rate. Now, the 3.75%, which is the proposed adjustment, would be 15 cents off of that $4. So in essence, the discounted tax rate that they would be paying through this payment of the stamp would be $3.85.
Okay, and there's no volume discount?
No.
So what did you say earlier? It was per 100 cigarettes, $4 per 100 cigarettes?
No, $20 per 100 cigarettes. In each pack of cigarettes, there are 20 sticks.
Right.
So it's $4 per pack. It's $20 per 100, prorated at the amount in each package.
Okay, it's like $20 per 100 cigarettes. Well, that's a hefty
so it's
price
$20
there.
for 5
That's a
packs.
hefty price there, Jerome. Okay.
It's $20 for 5 packs.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's more, because when you said it the other way around, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how the law reads, so.
You know, there's been a noticeable shift actually from tobacco, smoked tobacco to vape. Have you seen a decrease since the re-implementation of the sales tax or the tax stamps in the volume of sales?
No, because like the tax stamps, we actually the implementation was just started, late last year when the stamps actually came in, and then now we are at full compliance is required now, because it kind of got, working with the licensees who are responsible for affixing the stamps. We tried to work so that everybody, could get things in order, like kind of a transition period, but we are now actually at full compliance is required. So there should be no cigarettes being sold at retail outlets without the tobacco cigarette stamp on it. So it was just, we're in March now, and I believe it was just actually last month when it was full compliance was established. But there has not been, I don't think there's been a noticeable decrease in those in recent months.
Explain full compliance.
People will be cited for violation if there are any retail outlets selling cigarettes without the cigarette stamp. When we first introduced it a couple months ago, I believe it was actually November when the tax stamps first got here, and we were working with them to get it. So now, if any retail stores, and there's been outreach by the compliance branch also and the department where they're informing and educating all the retailers that they should not have any cigarette packs without a stamp on it to sell. They need to return it back to the wholesalers if they do have any.
So whose responsibility is it to place the stamps?
It's the licensee, it's the wholesalers.
Oh, so the wholesalers?
Yes.
So, but you say when you do your compliance checks, you do it at the retail level?
That's correct, because they get the cigarettes at the retailers come from the distributors or the wholesalers. So that's why they are required to affix the stamps and give it to the retailers, already stamped.
Okay, I don't want to get into the weeds of how do you determine which cigarette comes from which wholesaler, because that's a whole other discussion. So you said the program was implemented or at least since back in November.
It was started, yes.
Started in
we got
November.
the tax stamps and were able to start distributing
When was this
it.
supposed to have been started?
I believe it was last fiscal year, but there was the delay because I believe also it was the distributors or the licensees who were requesting for more because they hadn't gotten the hardware, like the machines, in order to affix the stamps. It took time for everybody to get that, and so there were considerations made to try to get everybody all of their equipment and everything in order to affix the stamps.
I'm just trying to establish how, if you started it just in November and this is end of March, how did we figure that this was becoming too costly for them in such a short time frame? That there was a need for this reduction in the price of the stamps?
I'm not sure with the bill, being
I understand, but
introduced or
I
written,
want to see if you have any insider knowledge on how or why this is occurring now. I'm just trying to figure the timeline.
I can't say.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not going to push it. Just to see if you had any perspective on it. Okay, well, that's all my questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Tutusmasi, Speaker Frank Blas. At this time, Senator Gumatata, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for being with us today. Let me ask Reverend Tax, does the current low discount inadvertently penalize compliant businesses? And how does this bill correct that imbalance while maintaining the integrity of Guam's tobacco tax system?
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that?
Again, does the current low discount inadvertently penalize compliant businesses? And how does this bill correct that imbalance while maintaining the integrity of Guam's current tobacco tax system?
I don't know that it actually, if penalized would be a term, but so the current rate, which is the 0.4%, is about, with the $4 per pack, it's like, I want to say 1.6 cents, roughly 2 cents or something like that. But, the 3.75 is a 15 cent. I mean, these guys, I don't know the exact cost of the equipment because there's machines and they had to bring vendors out, so I don't know that they actually recover their costs, but I think the increase is what is helping them to recover some of it because they are the ones per law that are responsible for affixing the stamps on it.
Okay, why I'm asking is there was an article in the local newspaper, one of them, February 10th of this year. It reported that 8 businesses were caught selling tobacco products to minors. So to what extent did your agency investigate whether the tobacco inventory maintained by these 8 businesses were actually compliant with or in violation of established laws and regulations for this?
That would have been the compliance branch. I don't oversee that branch, so I'm not exactly sure the details of what violations you're talking about, but I do know that the underage sale is what the compliance, one of the things that the compliance branch does when they, or how do you say it, not what they do, but what they go out and check It's I think it's called the SINAR program or something like that. But that's a separate type of violation from what the tobacco stamps would be. Like compliance also would go out and check the retailers to see, because they know, they're fully aware now that they should not have any cigarette packs that are not stamped already. So I think that would be two different violations. I'm not exactly sure if that, answers what you're asking, but.
If I can speak to that, we did have a meeting with the distributors on March 11th, since they've implemented this initiative. And we went with the distributors. They did all confirm that they've implemented successfully already putting the stamps on using their new machines. And then we did have a report from our compliance supervisor that they have not had any issues since they've been going out and visiting the different establishments. So everybody at that point has been in compliance with the new policy, I guess, if you call it that. So at this point, the coordination between the distributors and the retailers has been implemented and has not seen any issues thus far.
So then I guess on that, can you, for this body, how will your department, how will the Department of Revenue and Taxation monitor and enforce the new discount to ensure only compliant licensees benefit?
So from what I understand, the fines are pretty hefty if they are not in compliance with this. And right now, the compliance department is working with the 3 distributors that we were meeting with. There are procedures in place if they are if the retailers are non-compliant, because at this point there has to be coordination between the retailers and the distributors. The retailers cannot receive the product unless they've done inventory and confirmed that the stamps are on the product. So they went through that whole process already.
So for Mr. Byrne, if you can, recognizing that the Healthy Futures Fund, the collections have continued to decline since starting back in FY 2020 into FY 2024, going from a high of $39.9 million in FY 2020 to $20.7 million in FY 2024, and acknowledging further that Healthy Future Fund collections for FY 2025 was 1 million less than the adopted levels. What information is available confirming the basis of the governor's proposed Healthy Futures Fund level that she submitted of $23.1 million for FY 2027? And to what extent do you feel, or maybe looking based on your interaction with DRT, to what extent will DRT's recent announcement of the tobacco tax stamp program impact projected revenue levels moving forward?
Thank you, Senator. If I could refer you to the special revenue report for the end of February. The adopted revenues for the year to date, which is 5 months, is just over 10 million. And we've currently collected about 9.8 million. So it's hovering around the 20 million for a full year. So I don't feel that we're too much at a risk there. And indeed, the revenues from cigarettes, which we're talking about, actually exceeded the adopted revenues. There seems to have been a downward trend in cigars, and I'm not expert on all these things. And surprisingly, in distilled spirits, maybe that needs some investigation or indeed some help along the way. So, but we're not too far away from the target of 23 million.
All right, thank you, Mr. Byrne, for that clarification. Mr. Chair, thank you for the time to ask questions. Thank you.
Susmasi, Senator Gumitato. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair. Is there anyone in the panel who can answer as to the impact of this tax break?
I have historically, over the administrations, been asked and been relied upon to reconcile revenues against and compare revenues against DRT's actuals versus BBMR, DOA, CRER. It's been a really hard, long ride throughout all the administrations. And I most recently, as last week, started updating those revenue comparisons. I haven't done it in a while. So right now, I don't believe anyone here has brought that data, but we certainly look at it from time to time, update it when there is time beyond my tax enforcement duties.
Okay. Thank you for that, ma'am, because I was trying to read the fiscal note here provided by BBMR, and there isn't a specific dollar amount given, but there is a warning, if you will, that should the bill become law, the proposed increase in the tobacco stamp discount may result in a potential decrease in future annual revenues towards the Healthy Futures Fund. Were you aware of the testimony that was provided to senators submitted from the Guam Comprehensive Cancer Control Coalition?
I personally was not.
Okay.
No, I have not.
So they submitted testimony to all the senators ahead of the session, or during the session, I believe, and ahead of the committee of the whole. And their estimate is that it will lead to a revenue loss of anywhere from, well, $1.1 million. Does that sound about right if you calculate $3.85 a pack times however many packs of cigarettes they're selling?
I particularly didn't do that specific math, but part of revenue reconciliation is ongoing between us and DOA, or at least it has been brought up again as late as last week, to reconcile even for the special funds accounts, just to reconcile and see where we're at. Historically, the beginning of this administration and then last administration, the comparisons were pretty close with our actuals versus the CRER.
If I heard correctly, the author of the measure in his open had talked about how the tax discount would offset financial hardship for the sellers of cigarettes. Would you agree with that statement, that their cigarette sellers are suffering financial hardship? And it's kind of funny, actually.
I don't think it would be our position to comment on that, but we can definitely.
Well, I mean, you would know, right? Because you're seeing all the numbers.
We can show you the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, just this narrative of, I date Namaste, the sellers of cigarettes, and I'll just tell you what this is really about, is you have prominent political supporters on both sides of the aisle who sell the cigarettes to the people. And now that's why, you know, when we have all these people in here running for governor, I'm waiting for the distinction and the separation in philosophy, but it's clear they all support this because very powerful people on both sides of the aisle will be helped by this. And I would just say that if you just do the math, they're paying $3.85 a pack in taxes. How much are cigarettes retailing for out there?
About $9 or $10. $9 usually, mom and pop stores like that. So $4 of each of that is the tax. Right?
I'm not a businessman by any stretch, but you know, with that, I don't know if you call it profit or whatever, but with that type of markup, would you then assume that there's financial hardship being had by the sellers of the cigarettes?
Again, we can't speak to that. Our position is that since this has been implemented, working with the distributors and with our compliance branch, everyone has reported out on the activities and has explained how this has either worked or not worked. And thus far, they have gotten into a rhythm where it is working at this point.
It's working at this point without the discount.
With the implementation of the stamps being affixed to the products.
Right.
And so that we were just speaking on it operationally.
Right. But it's working right now without the discount.
Operationally, yes,
Right.
it's working right now.
Okay. Based on your read of the bill, is this a forever tax break? Because I didn't see a sunset in there. So this is forever and ever? Not just for the election years, it's going to go for all the election years coming?
I don't see a sunset in it either.
Right, yeah. So you agree that it's forever and ever, amen?
Until it is brought up again to change, either increase it or decrease it. It could go either way. In our history, we have been made to pivot accordingly, just to implement the different changes.
The testimony received also from the Guam Comprehensive Cancer Control Coalition states increasing the discount would result in an estimated $1.1 million annual loss to the Healthy Futures Fund, a fund that plays a critical role in protecting Guam's children, families, and communities from tobacco-related harms. Secondly, Guam should prioritize strengthening compliance, improving tracking systems, and ensuring full tax collection before considering any industry tax relief. In what ways do you believe that you could prioritize strengthening compliance and improving tracking systems?
So the cigarette tax stamp itself is just right off the bat, you can see it, and you should know already that the tax is paid or going to be paid on that sale. And again, that's just for tracking and compliance checks, right? If there are any where there's no cigarette stamp, then it should not be sold anywhere on Guam. That's just one of the things that the stamp actually does.
So the program has been implemented, and I guess the thought process behind this is we're now going to subsidize Big Tobacco's compliance with this cigarette stamp tax law. Do you agree?
It's the way it appears, as it is written. Regarding our compliance initiatives, so ABC would be the branch or the regulatory division to do the tracking and the checking on the stamp side. Tax enforcement, collections, and then maybe even our revenue agents for audits would take care of the reporting and collections tax side.
What other taxes, if any, do cigarette sellers pay, like wholesalers? Is it just the cigarette stamp tax? Are they paying the BPT?
Yes, they also, the wholesalers don't pay the BPT, right? They pay the tobacco tax. The retailers pay the BPT on the sale.
Thank you. What about the vape? So, we've been discussing for a few years the, prevalence of the vape industry. They're doing pretty good. They're popping up more than the dialysis centers. But we're not taxing them in the same way that we tax the cigarettes, right? So do you have any, first of all, what type of taxes do the vape shops pay?
I believe it's currently categorized under the retail.
So what is that? Is that the reduced business privilege tax rate?
Yes, it is.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because we haven't, I know there was a couple bills, and that's a big discussion, is that, and it kind of doesn't really fly with the numbers we got from Mr. Byrne, but even when you talk to the cigarette sellers, they're saying people are moving over to vape, but we're not capturing that stream, which, you know, in my mind would be more money for the Healthy Futures Fund. And that's kind of the problem that I have with the bill is, you know, these tobacco taxes are intended to discourage consumption and fund prevention efforts, as well as support, you know, sports in the schools. And I just don't see the rationale. We're going to turn a blind eye to sports for the kids. We're going to turn a blind eye to, you know, all the other efforts with tobacco cessation that we do for the kids. Also, we can give this tax break to big tobacco, and it's going to reduce the revenue into the Healthy Futures Fund. That's more of a comment, but thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Susmasi, Senator Barnett. Senator Chalayi, you recognize.
Susmasi. Mr. Byrne, on one of the media articles reported, this was in February 2026, reported that according to Lester Carlson, there is no, as of December 3, 2025, there is no general fund balance to carry forward from the 2 prior fiscal years, and the unassigned balance was actually negative $13.98 million as of December 3, 2025. What is the balance as of today?
I think I already answered that, Senator, that it was 2.8 million.
That's the same balance, so you included the negative?
Included which negative?
The 13.98 million deficit. He's talking about a general fund balance, and I thought you were talking about FY26 excess revenues.
Yes. Well, yes.
So in your calculation, so you're saying we're no longer in a deficit?
As we continue to garner additional revenues, we're creeping out of the deficit.
Did we cover the 13.98 million then?
Yes.
Okay. So our general fund balance is the same amount as the FY26 revenues available?
It's around about the same, because it starts at 0, so it's around about the same amount.
Because last year we had one amount for a general fund balance and then one amount for the excess revenues for one particular fiscal year.
Yes.
But you're saying now they're the same?
It's roughly the same, just because of the mathematics.
All right. And then is the money from the tobacco stamp sales going into the Healthy Futures Fund?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the Guam Cancer Coalition, Guam Comprehensive Cancer Control Coalition estimated 1.2 million in foregone revenue from this bill. I think OFB had an estimate of about 850,000, and I just wanted to confirm, what is your estimate of foregone revenue from this bill?
We haven't had the chance to do any special study. We didn't get any specific questions for this bill. We don't even have a copy of the bill or the cancer report.
All right, but it was Reventax who recommended that instead of the $6 sum that the sponsor had originally proposed, that it be reduced to $3.25. So why? Based on what number? Yeah. Do you know the impact of this bill?
I've just done a very rough and ready calculation, and it looks like there's like 71 million packs of cigarettes. Based upon the number, based upon the numbers I can see reported, it's somewhere around about 1 million.
1 million? 1 million. All right, so that's the same as the Guam Cancer Coalition. All right, and then this Healthy Futures Fund was short in FY25, 1.some million. It's also, I think, projected as of March 2026 to be at a deficit of $420,000 and likely to continue to grow if we're following the same trajectory and the one as of last year. So this Healthy Futures Fund is used, as some have said, for the Department of Education interscholastic sports and health and physical education activities. It's used for Guam Cancer Trust Fund. We've budgeted these amounts. We've budgeted for Guam Cancer Registry, for the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, for DISIT, and so yes, I am concerned that if reducing that $1 million, I mean, we seem to throw $1 million around easily here, but some of these agencies were only appropriated like less than $500,000 total. So it really has an impact when you look at the smaller entities or agencies. And they're each just getting small amounts from this fund total. So, yeah, if OFB is not here, maybe, Mr. Chair, if you could just confirm that what is OFB's calculation of the cost impact of this bill to the Healthy Futures Fund?
Yeah, whatever they've enumerated, I concur with. All right, we're already looking at deficit on the Healthy Futures Fund. We're already looking at deficit from last year from the Healthy Futures Fund. We're looking at not being able to cover some of the promised carryovers from last fiscal year for a lot of these same people. And now we want to propose to take $1 million away. But you're saying right now that everything is being implemented as it's supposed to be, right? So there really isn't a problem.
Yes.
All right. Sutus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Vice Speaker.
Chairman Duenas, you're recognized.
Point of order.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, are we going in order?
Yes, but the chairman is here, and he's going to ask his questions, and we'll be going to Senator Matanani, then Borja.
But we passed
Lujan.
him already because he wasn't down here to speak. He only wants to come down and speak after I speak.
Yeah.
It's out of order, Mr. Chair.
You're recognized, Senator Duenas.
Sutus Masi, Mr. Chairman. You know, Ed, we're doing the budget again, so we'll go into this. So really the big shortfall right now represented in the CRER is the Guam Education Facilities Fund being extremely in the negative because of non-collection of the taxes, correct?
The property taxes, yes.
So we can anticipate for the balance of this fiscal year, if everyone's being like they have been traditionally, the good taxpayers that they are, that we would recover that revenue over the coming months as the tax rolls have been mailed out.
Let us hope so, yes.
Okay, I hope so too. But I would think that as we've tracked and as it's been mentioned, that fund actually has been improving in terms of its collection, and the general fund, correct, will make up for any shortfalls.
Yes.
So, revenue tax, I don't like to do this to you, but I have to. Tell us the origin of the tobacco tax stamp and why you've never implemented it.
So I believe what he was saying, what Senator San Agustin had said was that it was passed, I think in 2017, maybe originally. I guess there was not really the, how do you say it, the avenue for the actual implementation. Like for revenue tax, there was no additional funding, and I guess in recent times is when they actually figured out how and put the burden on the the distributors or the licensees. I can't speak to why it was never implemented before being implemented now, but
The entire panel there, have you ever requested funding in the budget, received funding, and done procurement to execute the law for the tobacco tax stamp?
I'm not sure if anybody else in the department has. I personally have not. So the compliance branch falls under the regulatory division, and I'm not sure if anybody from the administrative office has or not.
I am not aware of this right now, but I can find out for you and get the information to you.
So just as much as we talk about this as the discount and the impact, the fact of the matter is Revenue Tax, to be fair, has never been able to implement the law.
As I understand it, until just recently, correct?
Recently, because the private sector has implemented the law by purchasing stamps, by purchasing the equipment, by bringing out, as they testified on the bill, people from off-island to set up, to allow them to run the machines, and a maintenance contract in place to be able to make sure that the vendors can do what the government of Guam has not been able to do.
As I understand, yes, the distributors, the onus was on them to procure the necessary equipment in order to implement. And this was after the tax stamps were brought in.
So the tax stamps that they're using are being procured by Revenue Tax? But Revenue Tax has never been able to affix those tax stamps to tobacco product, cigarettes,
Prior,
prior.
correct.
So the vendors have incurred all the expenses of buying a machine, setting up a machine, getting a vendor, maintaining those machines, bringing out the people to make sure that there's a maintenance contract in place, and they will have to do that, as they testified on the record, on an annual basis, correct?
That's correct.
So the private sector's done what the government's failed to do. Does anybody from RevTax remember that there was at one point in time some sort of iteration of the Attorney General's office getting the implementation and getting some sort of a grant or a program together to actually effectuate the implementation of the tobacco tax stamp?
I don't remember.
That did exist at one point.
Yeah, I'm not aware. I don't recall it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. This has been one fumbled effort from the day the law was implemented, and right now, I do not have any problem with making up any losses to the Healthy Futures Fund. But I think, Benjo, I have to come to you. I'm sorry. I always mess that up. Sorry. Mr. I'm going to have to come to you to basically just be clear on this. You mentioned earlier that compliance is now effective and operational because the private companies have gone out and purchased the machines, have had maintenance contracts, have affixed the stamp that's been sitting up in Revenue Tax in order to be affixed. Compliance now is effective because you and the tax enforcement can go into a store and make sure that that vendor has to show you all of their cigarettes and any inspection, and if they start pulling those things off the shelf and there's cigarette either in their inventory or on that anything that they're selling that doesn't have a stamp, you could nail them right on the spot, correct?
That's correct. There would be in violation.
And that's because these evil people who sell cigarette, some people would determine that's the truth, are affixing the stamp and doing the job of the government.
Stepping back just a little before the retailer, it's the wholesaler, the distributor, responsible to procure or pick up the stamps. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome. So pick up the stamps from regulatory, and those are then tracked. I mean, that's how one tracking mechanism. And then before they sell their product to the retailer, they are supposed to affix the stamp. Retailers, after it leaves wholesaler, retailers then receive all these stamped boxes of cigarettes, and then they put it on their shelves. Anything else can happen. Anything else, they could remove it, destroy it, do whatever.
So because the wholesalers are doing this job of the government has the ability to track and enforce tobacco product
After we have issued their
from package to
their
sale.
stamps, yes. It's easily
So,
tracked.
so Mr. Uggan, if somebody walked into a store right now, a compliance officer, and instructed the owner or who's ever at the retail desk there to show them all of their inventory of cigarette packs and pull everything down from the shelf and inspect to find out if every single pack is stamped, that would be a heavy compliance in your interpretation, an enforcement of compliance.
Yes, there could be a violation if they find cigarettes without the cigarette stamp tax on it.
Ed, we're coming back to the old saw, Mr. Byrne. If there is a shortfall because of any discount applied to the Healthy Futures Fund, is it the job of the general fund to make up for that lost revenue?
It's the job of the general fund to make up the loss of any special revenue fund. But can I just be clear? It's not just the revenue, it's the balance on the fund. So if the expenditure of the fund is also reduced, as well as the revenue, that might net out the effect.
But if there's a corresponding discussion that's on the floor here right now of any lost revenue or drop in revenue in that particular area, the general fund will make it up or can make it up.
The general fund makes up the balance of the fund.
The balance.
Yeah.
So what would be the difference then, a direct appropriation as opposed to the general fund taking the duties and responsibilities of the balance, making up the balance?
Well, the general fund is responsible eventually for all the balances that have show a deficit because of a special fund, which is really properly called a special revenue fund, showing a deficit on the balance.
Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I yield my time to Senator Duenas.
Your time is due to Senator
Thank
Duenas.
you.
So noted. Continue, Chairman Duenas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, because I just want to take this a little further so we understand. So if there's a shortfall in the balance in terms of what's tracking or what the balance is due to the appropriation to the different funds, the general fund will make up for that.
The general fund, according to accounting principles, has to make up that difference.
Ed, is it difficult, if we really want to get down to it, to look at historical data, particularly in this area, and ensure that if that's the correlation and causation, either saying then let's make an appropriation to offset that? I mean, because to me, and I hope, I don't know if it's, your choice to opine or not, but here we are sitting here not at least being thankful that the private companies are helping the government, because the government has not procured these machines, has not gotten a maintenance contract. Lord have mercy, we know about maintenance contracts in the government, has not done anything on their level to implement a law to affix the stamps that they procure and purchase to be able to enforce compliance. Do you see that it would be any difficulty to track that in terms of the impact and simply appropriate that for the discount?
I don't really know, because I've not spoken. I don't even know what these machines look like, to be frank. I just would point out that like 7-8 years ago, it was the Healthy Futures Fund that had to support the general fund. I'm glad to say we're no longer in that state.
I'm glad to say that too, Ed. But we got to make sure that we're being accurate on this floor when accusations are being thrown around that we're not going to make up for any losses, especially when we have a situation where the private sector, through this discount, is implementing what the government cannot and has not done.
Well, I don't really know whose responsibility it is, to fix these stamps. This is something that is outside my experience. I was aware of the procurement of the stamps themselves because GSA was tasked with that, but that was all they were tasked with.
So to Reventax, do you consider this, if it's funded, do you consider this activity a burden that's off of the back of Reventax to not have to purchase those machines, procure those machines, maintain those machines, and have contracts to maintain those machines for affixing the stamp to these individual packs of cigarette?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so does the representation from Reventax see it as a benefit to Reventax that these wholesalers have gone out and procured and purchased and installed and have maintenance contract to affix and comply with the law, the stamps that you bring in to each individual pack of cigarette for compliance on tax remittance and also compliance in terms of sales?
That potentially can appear as a benefit. We don't have to procure those items that you just listed out. However, with regard to the impact of the funds, the revenues, since tobacco at the retail level is line item number 2, I believe, on the GRT list of taxes, it's also impacted by business exemptions, whatever. It's also impacted by the changes we made to, for instance, like Lex B. It's also impacted by the rollback, the recent rollback. So it's a bigger picture. It can appear to be a benefit and not a burden, at least on our part.
Outside of the equipment, what would be equipment, the machines, the maintenance contract, everything else that goes along with this? Because in the testimony from the wholesalers, they're just trying to recover their costs. That's what they've told us. That's clearly in the committee report. They're trying to recover their costs. They say also they have labor costs as well associated with that. Would Reventax have labor costs if they were to, on top of procuring the machines, maintaining the machines? Would you have labor costs for affixing, for first of all, of managing, the incoming of having the wholesaler's product, having to affix the stamp to the wholesaler's product, and track everything internally? Would you have manpower requirements for that at Reventax?
Definitely, we would, especially with our ongoing situation with our limited resources, and that includes human resources.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. Point of information. The current law does not require Reventax to procure any kind of maintenance or machines based on the law that was passed. So it's not the burden upon Reventax to purchase these equipment. It was in the law that clearly states
that the licensee
it's the other
is
ones. Yeah.
responsible.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Thank you for the point of order.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with that line in terms of the duties and responsibility. However, in order to do that, in order to enforce the law, Reventax, how would you enforce it? So would you tell the wholesalers then you cannot sell cigarette until you get a tobacco stamp machine?
Yes, that's the law. I mean,
Okay.
that's what they would say.
Okay. So then other than that, there was never, in terms of Reventax enforcing them, then you've never done that.
The way we would enforce it on the tax enforcement side would be to use the sale and pickup of the tax stamps itself to whatever wholesalers as a tracking mechanism, as a reconciliation information document. Other than that, compliance officers, right now I think they only have 3. And so any additional task forces or requirements from each branch, any branch, would definitely appreciate and possibly more than likely require additional staff. We are so short-staffed, we have to, you know, help each other, cover for each other, wear many hats. For instance, I'm tax enforcement. I should be focusing on the tax enforcement programs. However, I have to also help administration to report on all the revenues and all the ARs and outside of enforcement, for instance. Statistics for taxpayer service division areas. How much is, how many returns sometimes I would have to, or process daily. I would have to do the RLR, which is the refund liability report, help just, we all each have to help each other. So definitely we would need, if we were given any extra tasks, even the current inventories, we need support.
Is there anyone from Rev and Tax, since the law has been a law, and since you've been bringing in stamps, any correspondence that you have that has warned the wholesalers that you will discontinue allowing them to sell tobacco product if they do not have a machine to affix a stamp to the cigarettes?
There have been correspondence, I'm not, maybe with the regulatory division compliance branch about the actual stamps. Now, the procurement of the machines was the businesses, the licensees, you know, that's them because they are responsible for affixing the stamps. So I don't know that there was any correspondence about actually them getting the equipment they needed or not.
Do you agree that there's a cost associated with that?
Yes.
So Ed, once again, if we had to sit down and work this out in terms of what is the effective cost of this discount and prepare an appropriation to offset that, would you be amenable to that?
This isn't generally outside my area of responsibility, but if I could help with some accounting issue, I certainly would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my line of questioning.
Thank you, Chairman Duenas. Senator Salas Mantanani, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question. Maybe you could just, in the most simplest terms, can you just walk us through the actual process that wholesalers have to follow to purchase, handle, and affix these tax stamps, and what kind of operational costs that you know of that it costs to do this?
I am not sure about operational costs, you know, that on the business side, what they incur, but they do have either machines there, or you can also do it manually, you know, the stamps, and I think in some cases they actually do it manually. But when the cigarettes that are imported and in the bonded warehouse by the licensees, the wholesalers, when they are put out of the bonded warehouse, that's when the stamps are to be affixed in their at their place before it can go out to the retailers.
But I think I was hearing that they have to buy all this equipment and they have to do all
Right, so
this?
some people have bought, or you know, and maybe all of them have bought the actual machines where they run it through a machine to affix the stamp on the packs. But like I said earlier, there are some instances where there's a manual, like a little gun that they can stick it on also. How they do it is, you know, however they would think it was more efficient for them. That's the cost of them.
So is the government relying on, you know, these wholesalers to administer a part of the tax system?
Well, like we said earlier, the law states that the licensee is to affix the stamp to the pack.
So is that a yes?
It's a no. So our responsibility, or the responsibility and function of our compliance branch, is to control the issuance of those tax stamps for every and each wholesaler of cigarette boxes separately. Those control reports or mechanisms for the tax stamp issuance then become our control, our tracking component. And beyond that, if, according to what is being discussed here, the onus of affixing that stamp has already left our building. It's on the wholesaler. So however they do it, whether they do it by hand or by a state-of-the-art machine, that is their choice for doing their type of business or quality of their business, efficiency of their business. So already rev and tax responsibility has been met because we issued. And we issued it in a controlled manner, the tax stamps. I believe they're numbered, Jerome, if you can. I've never seen one up close, and that is a regulatory division process. So we're just here to, I guess, present what we do know, what we have experienced, what we have discussed in our house, and then what we've heard through the hearings regarding the tax stamps. So Rev and Tax was told we have to obtain or procure tax stamps to get this actually off the ground. That was the first step. So we did that, and now we're issuing them.
Right,
I
and
guess
so
an
this
amicable
bill, what I'm
process.
reading is that these private companies, these distributors, wholesalers have been,
incurred costs.
right, incurred
Yes.
costs and expenses in the process of affixing such stamps due to inflation. I'm just reading the bill.
Yes.
And this shortfall imposes a financial burden on businesses, potentially resulting in compliance challenges or operational straits. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Susmazi, Senator Montani. Senator Borja, you're recognized. Thank you. Senator Ranking Member Tina Rose Muñoz-Barnes, you're recognized.
On this bill 205, I wanted to ask if the higher discount would reduce stamp tax revenues, right? But however, this will improve compliance. And do you think that the improved compliance will offset the losses if this was implemented?
The math would be a discount of any product or tax, in this case, of course reduces the revenues associated with that tax. The second part of your question, I lost it, sorry.
Would it, do you think that the improved compliance will offset the losses?
I don't believe it directly correlates to compliance, depending, is compliance at a risk right now versus is it stable, and is it, is 100% of the wholesalers reporting as is? But wholesalers don't pay tax, but the retailers. So it could be for any tax type, So it doesn't necessarily mean because we issue a tax stamp for the box of cigarettes or the carton of the pack of cigarettes, I'm sorry. So doesn't necessarily say we're stable. We have everyone in compliance now because of this stamp. It could fluctuate, depending.
So maybe the next question, as I'm looking at the author of this legislation, has non-compliance been costly?
Compliance regarding the tax stamp?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we were discussing earlier, it just in recent weeks is when the full compliance was done or started. Now,
Implemented.
yes, implemented. But so in November, when the tax stamps first were being distributed, there has been this this period of a transition. So there were times when the tax stamps were out, but not everything, enforcement for full compliance was not done until now. So the actual compliance with the stamps is just recent.
Okay, so so this full implementation, really, whatever we get from that is still something better than nothing at all, right?
So even though there was a transition period, even though we were late in the game to actually procure tax stamps, whatever the case, ongoing every month is still, you're still required, a taxpayer is still required to file their monthly return.
Right.
So to try to analyze it from the perspective of, did the tax stamp actually help enforcement? There's two different components of enforcement in this case. One is tax stamp and the mandates to affix a tax stamp versus compliance officers ascertaining whether everybody's cooperating. And then that's at that determination is made at the retail level versus the onus of fixing those tax stamps is at the wholesale level. So the wholesaler, yes, they still report a return. However, the wholesale taxes, the rate is zero. They're 100% exempt versus the retailer who's required to still report their retail monthly sales, tax stamp or not tax, no tax stamp, that $9 or $10 per box or pack, sorry, should be reported, and the taxes should be paid on that retail, taxable amount of that retail. So from the perspective of compliance office determinations or responsibilities for compliance checks, if they went to a retailer and found out that 5 boxes didn't have the stamp, it's not necessarily how do you say, a fraudulent act or activity, right? Anything could have happened, it could have been not noticed when it was thrown on the shelf. That would be the responsibility of the compliance officers to check the reasons why, or if all the inventory in the mom and pop store had the affixed sign, then there's a no change, right? There's no concern. So those are two different enforcement initiatives and functions and responsibilities.
Well, thank you for that, Carol. Mr. Chair, as we look at this, I guess the intent of this measure proposes to revise the tobacco stamp discount to, I hope I'm saying this right, is 0.4% to the proposed 3 3/4%. This bill was to ensure that licensees are adequately supported in meeting the financial obligations associated with compliance. So I'm going to continue to listen. I know that the author of this legislation, and in my efforts of supporting him, and supporting to see how I can make this program successful is to maybe have him read what Revenue Tax has to offer. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to yield it back to you so we can further hear from the author of the legislation. Sana Masi, and I appreciate the comments coming from Revenue Tax. Thank you.
Sus Masi, Ranking Member Tina Rose Munya Barnes. Yeah, we are amending a current public law. This is not a new law.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman, Senator Snogstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my colleagues, in the committee report, you will find that there was a letter submitted by the Director of Department of Revenue and Taxation. And the reason why she submitted one is because during our review on our proposal, and I'll read the letter. It's addressed to me on October 8, 2025, Holiday Senator Snogstein. The Department of Revenue and Taxation has reviewed your draft legislation, how it started, to amend the discount rate on the purchase of tobacco tax stamp. As your office moves forward with introducing the bill to adjust the discount from 0.4% to 6.25%, the Department of Revenue and Taxation recommends the legislation be revived to set the discount at no more than 3.75, which is equivalent to 15 cents per stamp. Our proposed discount of 3.75% strikes a balance between the need to help the licensee offset the costs associated with affixing stamps and the government's inherent duty to collect the tax imposed on the sale of or use of cigarettes. And one more sentence, it was about the Title 11 versus Title 12. And my colleagues and Mr. Chairman, many states provide compensations or discounts to companies, licensed wholesalers, distributors, or stamping agents for the labor and expense involved in placing tax stamps on cigarettes. These companies are considered agents of the state responsible for collecting and remitting cigarette excess tax. And I remind my colleagues earlier, I mentioned, I used to work at Revenue and Tax, and I was the chief compliance supervisor. And I also mentioned that there was someone that was caught in the department and also at customs because they were bringing in cigarettes and they weren't getting taxed. They were being reported. And every time we went out there and we inspected, we made sure, because for some of you, and when they talk about alcohol and the other products they sell, that the regulatory side, the compliance checks, when vendors bring in their product, there's a serial number that identifies where it comes from. And the local vendors bring in products from certain places in the United States. The base brings in generally the same product, but they come from a different source. Based on those serial numbers, we can spot a product that is not controlled, not regulated, not being taxed and reported. So that's how we were doing it until the tobacco stamp started coming in and more enforcement happened with the alcohol being brought in from the base and folks bringing it to the retailers to try to sell the Budweiser, light beer, and all the other products. Folks, it was broken then. Now it's fixed. The Department of Revenue and Taxation gave a letter saying, we agree to assist the licensee. That's why the bill moved forward. That's why we're doing this. And when it was mentioned earlier, my colleagues, when we talk about the vape, I have that bill. We're just waiting for it to come out of committee, the ends bill, that will offset the loss in revenue. As soon as that comes out, then we can look at that 20% tax on ends, which is the vape, and then we can move forward. Because of course, we don't want to reduce any of the funding or revenue to the Healthy Future Funds, but I'm telling you, we can't expect, yes, the law says the retailer or the wholesaler will provide the machines, but even the department is in support of this program and reducing it and increasing it to 15 cents. So I just ask my colleagues to support the bill and let's move forward, because once we get to the ends, it'll fix a lot of the issues we're talking about in the Healthy Future Funds. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, panel, for being here.
Kusmasi, Senator San Agustin, you're absolutely right. So under E, it describes what the current law is. For the purposes of allowing compensation for the costs necessarily incurred in affixing the proper tax. That's the current law. So what we're doing is changing the current law and the percentage. Senate Vice Speaker, Senator Taitigui, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm looking at the Chapter 6 Tobacco Control Act of 2006, and here it states clearly the responsibility of the licensee, as well as rev and tax. Even in this law that was created, there was nothing in here giving rev and tax any funding to help move this program through at all. No funding whatsoever. So even if we're increasing, or not, we're giving that discount, I mean, you still have to do the same job, right? So where's the break that rev and tax is going to get for having to implement this program? It just doesn't make sense. Have you heard anybody or any of the licensees saying that they're going to discount their cigarettes, what they sell, lower than what they're selling now to cover their costs? Because they knew at the very beginning, these licensees knew at the very beginning what they had to do, what their responsibilities were. And now they're coming to us saying, oh, we need a discount. Well, is the public going to see that discount? Can you answer that? Is the public going to see that discount? I mean, did the licensees tell you they're going to give a discount to their cigarettes?
No guarantee that
they're going to give a discount, right?
Yeah,
it's just going to help the
cost of
business out, right? Help them out who have already known what they're getting themselves into. You know, it's so hard with rev and tax, all the compliances that you have to go through, all the inspections, constantly, especially these tax, because if they don't utilize a certain amount of stamp taxes, then it's got to come back. You know, it can't be resold to another person. You guys have to take inventory of all those taxes. And that's a lot of manpower, you know, moving forward. So the only thing that that's really going to affect is, according, of course, my good colleague from Senator Barnett mentioned earlier about a testimony that we received, and you said that you hadn't had a chance to receive it. Okay, so I'm just going to, briefly explain what they're looking at as how much money the Healthy Futures Fund, which is usually always trailing under what we've appropriated for the longest time. So it says here that potential fiscal impact. Guam currently collects approximately $33 million per year in cigarette excess tax revenue at the rate of $4 per pack. Under current law, 0.4% discount equals $123,000 in foregone revenue. But under the proposed change of 3.75 discount, it will equal to $1,237,500 in foregone revenue. So approximate net annual revenue lost is, if you subtract the 123, is $1.5 million to the Healthy Futures Fund. This reduction, which relies heavily on the tobacco tax revenue to support preventive and enforcement programs, public health efforts, teaching our children the bad effects of smoking and tobacco, and so many great things. I mean, even with mental health, substance and treatment to help individuals. You have operation and critical care support for Guam Memorial Hospital in the enforcement of tobacco control laws. You have the Department of Education, as I mentioned earlier, the health programs, interscholastic sports and youth development initiatives. You're cutting cancer screening treatment and patient support through Guam Cancer Trust Fund. So it just, it makes you look at what balance is everyone talking about here. What are we actually saying to our community in Guam? Let's give a discount to individuals who already know what they have to do and what they have to purchase. It's part of running a business. That's business, and they got in this line of business knowing this. But now we're here today to lessen the amount that's going into the Healthy Futures Fund that would care for so many things, and agencies that rely on that funding. My time is up, but thank you for being here and answering these questions, and following the rule on this is, you guys know what you're doing over there, and I just wish you had some funding to support your agency to follow through on this bill that was introduced 7 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tadigui. So that will conclude testimony on our questioning in this round, the first round, on 231-38 COR. And we will go to the final bill now on our docket, and that is Bill 262-38 LS, as amended by the Committee on Finance and Government Operations, introduced by V. Anthony Ada, Christopher M. Duenas, Frank Blas Jr., Sabrina Salas Montanani, Shelley V. Calvo, Tina Rose Munya Barnes, Ranking Member, and Telo T. Tadigui. Oh, I'm sorry. We completed that one. I was on the wrong page. We are now going to Bill number 228-38. Is that correct? That's correct. 228-38 CR, pardon me, folks, as amended by the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, and Federal Foreign Affairs, introduced by Senator Jesse A. Lujan, Christopher M. Duenas, Frank F. Blas Jr., Vicente V. A. Borja, Sabrina Salas Montanani, Sean Gumatauto, Senator Shelley Calvo, Vice Speaker Ada, Tina Rose Munya Barnes, Ranking Member, and Senator Joe S. Augustine. It's an act to add a new Article 15 to Chapter 77, Title 12, Guam Code annotated relative to establishing the Enhancing Tourism Aesthetics Program. At this time,
Mr.
the
Chair,
author of the bill,
point
Senator
of order,
Jesse
Mr. Chair.
Lujan, is recognized. Yes.
Point of order, yes. We were just on one bill. We haven't finished it. According to your rules, we're going to have a second round on it. But according to our standing rules, we need motions to move from one bill to another. Our records are going to be all over the place. No one in the public is going to be able to follow what we're doing here because they can't get a hearing that finishes the one bill. They'd have to jump around on all the hearings, and I'd like to finish the one bill we're on. Even though we didn't do it for the earlier ones, we should have, but if we can finish the one we're on, I think that's more consistent with our rules. We go into committee of the whole to do each bill, not to confuse the public by jumping around bills, and I think at the very minimum, the rules require that we have a motion if we're going to bypass a bill. And otherwise, we should finish the bill that we were on the tobacco stamp.
Thank you, Senator. We've set out the rules at the outset
Yes,
as
but
the
the
chairman.
the Committee on Whole rules do not overrule our standing rules, which require motions to move between bills. That if we're going to skip a bill or put it to the bottom or do anything else with that we're going to do that by vote.
I've done it as the chairman. You can make a motion to overrule the chair.
No, I'm raising a point of order.
Yeah, I've set up the rules of engagement for this committee of the whole. You can make a motion to overrule the chair.
You're ruling that the standing rules allow us to move from bill to bill without motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to overrule the chair. Obviously, you're going to get the votes, but I don't understand why. I don't
those in
understand why
favor?
anyone in this body is going to continue
Thank
to
you,
allow
Senator.
this kind of jungle rules. Let's just finish one bill. Let's finish our debate on it. Let's let the public follow what we're doing in here.
Thank you, Senator. There's been a motion to overrule the chair in enumeration of the bills and the conduction of the committee of the whole. All in favor to overrule the chair for continuing forward on the next bill, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Senator Lujan, you're recognized. Motion fails. Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues, as well. Today I present Bill number 228-38CR, of course, as amended by the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, Federal and Foreign Affairs.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. Point of order. I'm sorry, Senator Lujan. Just, this is a revenue tax panel. We're moving on to a bill that is involving GVB, GIDA. Are we going to call those people in?
I don't believe they've been made available for
Pardon?
this, and so we'll
They are
proceed
not
with
going
the
to be called in for the GVB and the GIDA bill?
No.
The QC bill?
No.
Is that your decision, Mr. Chair?
It's a finance bill, and it's a bill to offset revenue, so it's a revenue bill. So we have the folks here that deal with revenue, and that is my decision.
Mr. Chair, we've been waiting all this time to go into this committee of the whole for these people. This is a bill that even by the title discusses GVB, it discusses tourism, it discusses QC actually the title doesn't tell the public that we're going to do a QC program, and the one who's going to implement it is who?
Yeah, the chairman.
GIDA. No one here.
Yeah, the chairman will, or the author of the bill will be reading into the record in his opening testimony from GIDA. But the purpose of the committee of the whole is to discuss the financial impacts of particular bills, and we've got the people who can discuss the financial impacts of the bill. You can ask any questions or make any comments you want in any portion that you're allowed your time to speak, but we are entertaining the financial impacts of these bills, and we have the financial people here, so we're going to proceed. Senator Lujan, you're recognized at this time.
Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, if you could intervene. This is a bill regarding QCs of the government of Guam. They're only authorized by
The
GIDA.
speaker is not at the chair right now. The Committee on Rules chair is chairing. You're out of order.
Mr. Chair, point of
you
order.
recognize Senator
In Mason's Section 690 informal consideration reads, as a matter of convenience in considering measures by a legislative body in lieu of resolving into committee of the whole, the rules may be materially relaxed by the presiding officer to allow much greater freedom of discussion. Under this condition, the greater freedom allowed is by unanimous consent and compliance with any of the rules of procedure that may be insisted upon by any member at any time. Consistent with your putting out the rules earlier this morning, appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Correct,
that
and we've
does not go
disposed
to
of
the
that
point,
also, and
Mr.
we
Chair.
reinforced
Point
it
of
once
order.
again. Yeah. State your point of order,
Yes,
Senator.
that rule that they cited does not go to the point of who's going to be here during the committee of the whole. And our standing rules also state that no committee chair can unilaterally decide the rules of engagement or operating rules of a committee. While the chair holds significant power to manage meetings, agenda setting, and procedures, they're bound by committee's rules of procedure, the parent organization's bylaws. And so that's all I'm asking is that we're going to consider a QC bill. We need to have the QC people here.
So once again, as the chair, have brought in those and have relaxed the rules. And so if you want to overrule the relaxation of the rules by the chair, which has been done by acclamation of the body, by nobody else bringing it up, you can motion now to overrule the chair.
That is not how it's done. We don't do
That's how it's
acclamation, we do votes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, but nobody else has brought the subject up, so right now we're taking the vote on it. So you can
Mr.
now
Chair,
move to overrule the chair.
well, I don't know how a point of information, it's not a point of information.
Sure, you're
but
recognized,
based- or
Senator
just
Tide.
to-
Please proceed.
As the oversight chair of GIDA, I would like very much to have GIDA here to answer any of our questions because it does deal with QCs and it's something that I think the body needs to be able to ask questions to clarify. I mean, we're taking a vote on these bills that are going to affect the people's lives on this island. We should at least have the courtesy of having our questions answered by GIDA at least. So I'd like to make that request to invite GIDA in.
So the GIDA director has indicated, and she is in travel right now, she presented to the committee and to the author of the bill testimony to put their stance on the record. And so I, as the chair, have agreed that that is substantial enough. You can work with the other retiring speaker to vote to override the chair, Senator. Thank you.
There is Ed Camacho, who's available, who knows the QC explicitly, so there's no reason why we can't call him in.
Senator, you can join on a motion to overrule the chair on my decision.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to overrule the chair so that we can bring Geeta in, so that we can have our questions answered by the right entity, because we are no experts here. We need the experts in the room.
Thank you, Senator. There's been a motion to overrule the chair on the selection of the panel. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Senator Lujan, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, that being said, I want to read into the record Tina Garcia's note to us, and I'll read that verbatim here. It says,
Can we get a copy, Mr. Chair? We've not seen that in the committee report.
Yes, Senator Lujan, go ahead and continue, and when you're done
I'll
with
read
that
it,
letter,
and
I'll have it
Yes.
presented to the Sergeant at Arms
Thank
to
you.
prepare copies
Thank
for the
you.
body.
And
please start again with the beginning of the letter, and it will be distributed
Okay, thank you.
after the author of the bill submits it.
And
Reads
if I
it
may,
in the record.
Mr. Lujan, Senator Lujan, can we also make a motion to incorporate it into the committee report? Is
Sure.
this the area that we can make that motion?
Yeah, the motion can be made to append. Any senator can make that motion during their discussion. Senator
Okay.
Lujan, from the beginning, please start once again with the testimony from Geeta.
Thank you very much. And this letter, again, a note of WhatsApp information came to one of our staff members, KP, actually that's for Carl Pangilinan, okay? Says, with regards to the committee of the whole, tomorrow morning, I will be on the Honolulu flight headed to Phoenix swearing in Phoenix as a Phoenix lawyer, so I will not be present. Please note that only Bill 228-38 applies to Geeta. I see the revised bill considered Geeta's testimony, most especially moving the bill to Chapter 77 of 12 GCA. If you need any more information, you can reach me via WhatsApp. Sinceramente, Tina. So that was the only thing, and actually that's why the bill was amended, because we incorporated, again, their testimony, and during the markup as well, the testimony in moving the section to better reflect, of course, what this bill was intended to do.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. We'll get a method to have
Yes.
that printed out
Yes, I will.
as that matter of correspondence.
Yes.
And now you may open on the bill.
Thank you again very much, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. Again, I rise today to present, of course, Bill number 228-38 CR as amended by the Committee on Transportation, Tourism, Customs, Utilities, Federal and Foreign Affairs, a measure focused on one clear objective, revitalizing and developing the Guam product. As we continue our economic recovery, we all recognize that tourism is returning, but not at the rate that we would love to, of course, see it. The competition is intensified, traveler expectations have evolved, and destinations across the region are investing aggressively in their product. So the question before us is simple. How do we ensure Guam not only keeps up, but stands out? The answer is that we must be intentional about developing our product. When we talk about the Guam product, we are not just talking about hotel rooms or airline seats. We're talking about the full experience, our streetscapes, our landscaping, our public spaces, our building conditions, and the overall visual identity of our island. These are the elements that shape first impressions and lasting memories, Mr. Chair. Right now, there is a gap, a big gap. We have areas, particularly within our tourism corridors, that do not reflect the beauty of our island or the standard that we should be setting as a premier destination. And if we are honest with ourselves, this is not just a tourism issue, it's an economic competitive issue. Because the perception drives decision-making, perception drives investment, and perception drives whether visitors choose Guam over somewhere else. Bill number 228-38 CR, as amended by the committee, addresses this by establishing the Enhancing Tourism Aesthetics Program, also known as the ETA program. The strategic effort to invest in the look, feel, and presentation of Guam's visitor-facing areas. This is about elevating our standards and making a deliberate investment in how Guam shows up on the global stage. Now, I also want to highlight the important amendment that came out as during the committee process. Based on the testimony from the Guam Economic Development Authority, GEDA, we made a thorough structural change to strengthen this bill. Initially, the program was placed within the section of law governing qualifying certificates, or QC. However, GIDA recommended that we agreed that this program is better aligned under Chapter 77, which governs special projects. That change is reflected in the committee substitute bill before us today. And that makes sense because this program is not simply a tax incentive, it is a qualifying certificate mechanism. It is a broader economic development initiative that is a targeted strategic effort to improve Guam's core tourism infrastructure and visual environment, and to do so in a way that allows flexibility, coordination, and long-term impact. By placing it under the special projects framework, we're giving this program the proper policy home, one that allows it to function as intended, as a catalyst for investment, revitalization, and partnership. At the end of the day, this bill is about more than aesthetics. It's about pride in our island, it's about supporting our businesses, it's about strengthening our economy, and it's about ensuring that when people come to Guam, they see the very best of who we are. If we are serious, of course, about recovery, if we are serious about growth, then we must be serious about our product. This bill is a step in that direction. I look forward to your support. And you know, on the drive, Mr. Chairman, I saw, and she's not here right now, but I saw 4 amendments by Senator Sabina Paris, and I'm good with all 4 amendments. It makes the bill a lot better, so I've got no objection to any of those amendments that she may have proffered, if she's still proffering those amendments. They're just, I think, a couple definitions that she put in there, but again, I'm good with all 4 amendments at this point, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Senator Masi and Senator Lujan. Speaker Blas on Bill 228-38 as amended by the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one very short, quick question with Mr. Byrne. In your take of the bill, do you see any negative financial impact to the revenues or to the budget of the government?
I think I'm on record, Speaker, that I'm not really a big advocate of tax credits. It's always difficult to actually identify and quantify them. And we have to do that in our financial statements under GASB 77. However, in this particular case, there is a cap on it of 5 million. So I don't want to really put it this way, but the damage is limited. So long as we can, and I'll rely upon my colleagues at GIDA and DRT, give us the numbers so that we can report it accurately, I'm okay.
Okay. Well, it's interesting that you said that the damage has been done. However, would you agree with me that any investment in being able to improve on a product would result in a return of investment multiple times the amount that is going to was initially used?
Yes, a tax incentive must be designed to produce a return, and in this particular case, I don't. I would certainly support the idea of improving our tourist areas and encouraging tourists to go there. So, I mean, the economic argument seems to be solid, and I haven't personally done as GIDA would. I haven't personally done an expected return from this, but in theory, yes.
In theory, I don't expect you to come up with a, and I think that it would be foolhardy to try to come up with any hard, intangible number. But there is, it's the expectation, and it should be, that an investment this would result in a return on investment that could actually assist in then creating more revenues.
And more taxes from the revenues.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Masi, Mr. Speaker. Senator Gumatauta, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Byrne, I only have a few questions, and I'm hoping you can answer them as best you possibly can. Just in your work with the fiscal team of the governor, regarding BBMR's conclusions in the bill's fiscal note, that any tax exemptions or abatements would adversely affect the government's ability to fund essential services, including public safety, education, and critical social programs in the annual budget process. What analysis, if any, are you aware of that BBMR conducted on how the steady decline in tourist arrivals during the last several years, combined with business closure and perhaps product fatigue as described during the bill's public hearing, adversely impact this government's ability to fund essential public services going forward?
I'm not aware of any particular study. I think, as I was answering to the speaker, you've got to recognize a reduction in the tax base, and then you've got to anticipate an increase in the revenues, which would, in theory, compensate not only for the tax that you've conceded, but actually improve tax take.
Thank you so much. From your perch at DOA, how would the annual public reporting requirements that are listed in the policy and the publicly available list of approved projects build trust, demonstrate results, and allow this body, in your opinion, and the community to track private dollars, leverage, jobs created, and geographic distribution of benefits from this particular proposal?
I'm encouraged to see annual reporting, not only because of the transparency that's available to everybody, but for the reason I just explained about our GASB 77 requirements.
And my last question is, with a firm $5 million annual program cap, a 5-year sunset clause, and mandatory pre-sunset evaluation, how does the bill maintain strong fiscal discipline while still delivering meaningful economic returns through increased private investment and tourism activity in the territory?
As I said earlier, I'm encouraged to see a cap because that limits the liability, and some of these tax credits in the past have been kind of open-ended, and therefore it's very hard for me to see actually what the return is. In this particular case, there are two limits actually. There's an individual limit and an aggregate limit. That seems a firm footing for going forward. So, as I say, I'm much more relaxed about what I read here than I have previous QC tax credits.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Byrne. Mr. Chair, that's all I have. Thank you so much for the time to ask questions.
Si just modesty, Senator Guidalto. Senator Burnett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Department of Revenue and Taxation, for being here. I don't know if why you're still here, but it definitely would have been nice to ask Gita some questions, and I think it's also inconsistent with the way that the chair has held other committee of the wholes. We've had no problem prior to this one with having the relevant agencies in, whether it's the GDOE or Gita. So I'm just a little confused by that. I'm not sure who I'd ask questions to, maybe Mr. Byrne, but just in looking at the bill, I tend to agree with the testimony that was provided by Mr. David Lebowski. And as I was trying to research if there are any appearance-related laws or building codes or requirements, whether they'd be in the H zones or not, I was only able to find like very general laws. For example, all buildings and structures and all parts thereof, both existing and new, shall be maintained in a safe and sanitary condition. Our laws further say that the owners of properties or their designated agents are responsible for the maintenance, and unsafe structure is hereby declared to be illegal and shall be vacated and either repaired or demolished in accordance with the procedure provided in the chapter, which goes on to define unsafe buildings or all buildings and structures or equipment thereof which are structurally unsafe or which are unsanitary or which are unfit for human habitation or are not provided with adequate means of egress, constitute a fire hazard, or are otherwise dangerous to human life or safety, or which in relation to existing uses constitute a hazard to the safety of the public or occupants by reason of inadequate maintenance, dilapidation, or abandonment. So I think the laws that we have in the books are very clear about who's responsible for the maintenance of their properties. And I just find it interesting that, you know, just in the span of a week, we're talking about tax breaks for the big cigarette sellers. We're talking about tax breaks now for the businesses in Tumon, which, you know, for the most part, they've already received a significant reduction in the business privilege tax, both this year and that year. And so I see this recurring theme that the businesses, the big businesses, have been eating very well, while our people hunger, you know, and suffer because of the extreme cost of living and other issues associated with affordability. So those are just kind of my thoughts on the bill. And I also find it interesting, as we were discussing the Guam Visitors Bureau, and I wish they were here too, the other day, I just wanted to remind the body about the former GVB president, former Governor Carl Gutierrez, who actually took a lot of these same entities that were trying to subsidize the maintenance of their buildings. He took them to task, and he said he'd received many, many complaints about old and tired hotel facilities, high restaurant prices, and deplorably maintained retail and restaurant facilities. So while I appreciate the effort to put, you know, some kind of aesthetics code or law on the books, I don't agree with the subsidization of those efforts and the qualifying certificates, because, I mean, this could, with Gita not here, this could very well end up in a double dipping, triple dipping, as a lot of these hotel properties, if I'm not mistaken, and no one here can answer, they're already on existing qualifying certificate programs. And so for me, this is just another effort to build support. I think in an election year, I mean, it's Mr. Burns said that the damage was capped at $5 million a year, but that's for the next 5 years. So that's $25 million in tax credits that we're going to give out. And I think as we discuss a lot of these tax credit programs in this body, it's very clear there's rampant cases of abuse, political favoritism. And that's another thing that I worry about with this bill, is that the politics are going to get involved. So I don't really have any questions, and again, there's not really anyone here to ask these relevant questions to, but I do appreciate DRT hanging around for this. We're going to get you a parking spot. Yeah, I just had to put those thoughts on the record. I think it's clear the owners of the buildings are responsible, and, you know, I don't know if the people of Guam are supportive of subsidizing these efforts. I mean, Lana, it's your property. Clean your area. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, tax credits, revenue tax kind of makes sense. Sorry to inconvenience you. Senator Chalahi, you
Doesn't make sense, Mr. Chair. But Mr. Byrne, you said earlier that we're going to have a $5 million damage every fiscal year for 5 fiscal years. And then you also said that we're going to have revenue to balance it with. What revenue? What revenue is that, and what is the estimate of that?
I didn't say, Senator, that we were going to have revenue. I said the general theory behind allowing tax credits is that you generate revenue. You know, we're not alone here in, maybe this program is a little different from that offered by many other jurisdictions, but we're not alone here in having tax credit programs in order to stimulate business. And
yes, this is
if
not
that's the result.
Right, I'm asking you, so how much business is this stimulating as opposed to just giving money out to some of those people to fix their properties up?
I can't answer that question.
There is no estimate, is there? There's none in the committee report. There was none given by Gita. There's none by revenue tax. Do you have an estimate of revenue that we might receive if we give this $25 million tax credit? There was none given by GVB. In fact, the fiscal note, the official document supposed to predict the revenues for us, tells us that any tax exemptions or abatements will pose a negative fiscal impact on overall revenue collections and adversely affect the government's ability to fund other essential services, including public safety, education, and critical social programs in the annual budget process. This is from Lester Carlson. OFB said something very similar. They said The bill, quote, does have a fiscal impact by potentially reducing the generation of revenues for the government of Guam through the tax incentives. However, the exact amount cannot be determined at this time. So we're in this session you know, GITA is supposed to be the one to implement this bill. It says GITA will be the one to determine every proposal for tax credit. They will evaluate based on visual impact, contribution to tourism. I'm really curious how they're going to quantify that. Environmental sustainability, compliance with building and zoning codes, and use of local labor. It doesn't say, really, they're not here to answer how they're going to gauge any of those things. It also says we're going to prioritize properties, those landowners, properties who are in commercial structures that are located within designated tourism and village revitalization corridors. That's not defined anywhere in this bill. GITA's not here to tell us how are they going to define that. And then the bill was expanded in committee to go from Tumon or along Marine Corps Drive and other high visibility commercial areas to also include all villages, other tourism related facilities located. So that's what this $25 million is going to go to, is to existing businesses. We're not incentivizing anybody to come to Guam. We're not expanding what GVB told us we needed to expand, that we needed to expand destinations for these visitors, activities for them, they told us, and culturally based activities, they even told us. This doesn't have any of that criteria in it. It's for existing commercial properties in Tumon. And meanwhile, they had asked us that we diversify those. This doesn't diversify them. It keeps them the same, and we're just going to fix their facades for them. Meanwhile, I think that what the fiscal note points out that we lose and what it may affect is very important. And I'm really kind of stunned at what we are doing here today. We say it's okay. You know, we couldn't give the money to GMH, but it's okay to take $5 million away from what BBMR says could go to public safety, education, critical social programs. I don't know why we need to do that. No one has showed us any statistics that that's going to guarantee us even one more tourist, because we cleaned the facade of one building down there and we spent $25 million. You know, at least when they wanted the incentive money, they gave us some kind of statistics that this much incentive money is going to bring us this many tourists, hopefully. Or if we diversify our programs, you know, that's what our studies show us, our data shows us that that's going to help. But in this session, we have not lowered the taxes for small business. This 38th legislature lowered the taxes for the largest of Guam's businesses by $40 million. They're proposing to reduce it another $40 million in BPT.
Thank you, Senator.
To waive all penalties and interest for these same businesses.
Thank you, Senator.
And now to give them $25 million in tax credits.
You can make those remarks in the remarks section on second round. Thank you, Senator. Vice Speaker.
Chairman Dueñas, you're recognized.
I believe Senator Lujan has a point of information.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. Mr.
Senator
Chair,
Lujan.
you read in the bill there, okay, GITA shall assign priority consideration to projects located within designated tourism and village revitalization corridors, including but not limited to Tumon, Hagåtña, along Guam highways, PT.1, Marine Corps Drive, and other high-visibility commercial areas. Nothing in this section shall preclude other tourism-related facilities located outside Tumon, Hagåtña, or any other than along Guam Highway 1, Marine Corps Drive, from availing to these programs, to this program.
Thank you for that point of
Thank you,
information,
Mr. Chair.
Lujan. Chairman Dueñas, you're recognized.
Jesus Masi. In addition, 77 on page 6, 77-1508, rulemaking and coordination. GITA shall promulgate rules pursuant to this article within 120 days from enactment in consultation with Department of Revenue Taxation. Thank you for being here. Department of Administration, thank you for being here. Public Works, the Mayor's Council of Guam, Guam Historic Preservation Office, and the Guam Environmental Protection Agency shall enter into a memorandum of understanding to coordinate oversight rulemaking and include procedures for scoring inspection standards from the tax incentive certificate. Mr. Byrne, I want you to join me, since you've been with DOA for quite some time now, even in the prior administration. When COVID hit, do we have significant losses from shutdown of businesses, particularly in the tourism industry, for an extended period of time?
There was a noticeable decline in business revenues, and indeed there was a program that DRT set up to defer BPT receipts. It was a deferral, not a forgiveness of BPT receipts.
And that was, I'm sure, greatly appreciated. But do you remember this shutdown lasting to include even beyond a year in terms of activities for these businesses?
Yes, there are many, many reasons why businesses shut down or shuttered their doors or whatever. Obviously, the whole world was affected by COVID, and people were unable to travel. People were unable to move around the world. I'm sure you were affected. I was certainly affected. There obviously was an effect on our local economy, and that's one of the reasons, or the principal reason, why the federal government made fairly large sums of money available, not just to us, but to all states, territories, and counties and cities who are experiencing this economic downturn.
Correct. And once again, I'm sure much appreciated. However, we've also seen hotels close, discontinue doing business. Reverend Tax, in terms of tourism-related businesses, have you seen impacts in terms of their ability to remit and pay their taxes, particularly during the COVID time and immediately after?
I actually don't have any information on that specific period. I don't know.
I do not have information on that, but Ms. Carolyn may.
Okay, I'll wait for Ms. Carolyn. Can you take a short recess, Mr. Chair?
Take a 1-minute recess. Committee of Hosts, call back to order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman Duenas.
Ms. Carolyn, I guess the others weren't able to kind of entertain this question, but one of the reasons why the sponsors of this bill considered putting it together was the extreme impacts of COVID, particularly to the tourism industry and the ancillary businesses that support the tourism industry. Can you speak to the losses of revenue from the tourism industry over the years during COVID when they were shut down and ordered to shutter up and not be able to congregate and had to discontinue operation of their businesses?
I haven't done a specific study to the detailed components for the industry. However, revenues that would have been impacted would have been occupancy tax, even rental, even services, for instance. Those would be the general components, such as for hotels, for instance, the hotels that you're asking, or the hotel industry. And then there's also a trickle-down effect with the tour operators that have, contract with restaurants and hotels in the tour area, or tour industry, the tourist-related industry. Of course, if you didn't have a service or didn't provide a product, then of course your revenues would have plummeted. Hotel occupancy tax is on that transient occupant. Therefore, if no transient occupants were allowed to travel to Guam and occupy the hotels, that correlates to the reduction in revenues.
Carolyn, do you agree that contractors pay a significant amount of tax? So if these businesses are availing of this credit, but yet they're needing to provide the receipts for the expense, so they would hire a contractor who has employees who pay taxes in order to perform these improvements? Do you believe Revenue Tax would derive revenue from contracts that will be let out for this tax break in order to be able to provide these improvements?
Building, construction, contractors, and all the other related type of contractor-related industry, services and products, would generate revenue from the primary contractor, not necessarily all the subcontractors, right? Because the law has changed to onus of the tax on the prime. So yes, any service or product sold year in, year out, month in, month out would generate the revenue. The need for construction and or improvements, whether it's local residential or commercial, will increase revenues in that industry, contractor industry.
Do you think that the materials needed for these improvements, such as our hardware stores selling additional paint, materials for painting, perhaps some construction materials in order for these renovations to go forward, do you think that that would generate revenue into our tax base by those stores paying additional tax based on the purchases from these companies needing to do the work?
I couldn't confirm their additional versus their regular course of business, right? I don't know if it would supplement it or if they're at stable levels or if they're at losses period to period. It just varies. I wouldn't, when you sell a product or you do a service and you get paid for it, that's your revenue. I can't really confirm or negate that it's an increase versus you're operating at a loss during that month, even though you did have service and you did bring in income. The addition or supplemental income versus if there was an increase to income versus if you're operating at a loss, I didn't make as much as I did last year. Those are variable components.
But generally speaking, when stores, retailers sell products that are designed to be used for upgrades, for construction material, paint, other things that are included to be able, that they sell. If they sell more, will they pay more taxes?
If they sell more, their gross income correlates to an increase, yes.
So
Unless there's an exemption or Lexby, and those are variables as well. Lexby, the other one was the recent decrease in rate, a GRT rate.
yes, but those programs are already set, right? That they would have to have that write-off to begin with. Anything in addition to that, they would be paying additional taxes.
Lexby, you would have to be eligible, right? Gross
right.
annual income, and that fluctuates too with the business, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But that benefit already exists and it's capped, right?
It's capped.
Right. So if the additional revenue is coming into the company because they're doing more work, they would be beyond that, which would put them in a tax bracket, correct?
Potentially, or they can still remain within that scope of eligible Lexby taxpayers, yeah.
Yeah. So how about if they're paying their employees more and having more hours for their employees to work? Would withholding be increased?
Will the withholding be
Yes.
increased? Yes, if there were more employees overall, Guam, and more collections, but that too could be a variable because not every employee is required to have withholding taxes in their date or payday to payday deductions. Some meet thresholds, and it's comprehensive, but some meet thresholds where the employer doesn't have to draw out any withholdings versus some make a certain level of income, have certain exemptions, and so that dictates the taxable rate. Yeah.
Generally speaking, more economic activity creates more taxes.
Generally, yes. Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, can you just take another 30-second recess for Mr. Byrne to return?
We'll take a 30-second recess. Committee of the Whole is called back to order. Senator Chairman Dueñas, you're recognized.
Susmasi, Mr. Chair. Mr. Byrne, you mentioned earlier, isn't it generally accepted that through the times that COVID was here, the tourism industry was shuttered, businesses were shut down, not allowed to operate, not allowed for congregate, all the ancillary businesses associated there, we were bringing in over $1 billion along the years in federal dollars that sustained and in fact allowed our tax base to grow, correct?
Generally, yes.
In that time, Mr. Byrne, we gave 22% pay raises. We've increased budgets in government agencies by tens of millions of dollars. We've done all this to enhance our government, to make sure we can provide more services and the like. do you know of any program outside of using the federal dollars that we've used any federal or local money to make sure that we can do anything to support our businesses during that time, outside of the federal dollars that was distributed under the programs?
So are you talking about which time? Which time period, may I ask, are you referring to?
Just during the time of COVID, did we do anything with local revenue outside of federal programs? With the excess revenue every fiscal year, 100, 130, 150, $200 million in excess revenue, did we have any local programs to try to help our businesses?
We have some existing tax credit programs. As I was describing, I'm not really sure about the amounts that were committed, but I think in the fiscal 24 financial statements, there's about 11 million, most of which is the apprentice program that was a tax credit that was actually applied.
So for the businesses that survived, that hung on, that are still here, that are trying to maintain being part of this economy, take care of their employees, provide taxes to our government and the like, you really believe that $5 billion a year to help them spruce up their businesses, make things nicer, beautify as we're trying to do to Guam, is not a significant benefit back to these businesses to try to support them to stay in business and be a part of our community?
It's $5 million, up to $5 million a year. We have a local a local appropriation of getting on for $1 billion now. So it's only a very small proportion of that. We talk about how we appropriate funds, and we can throw around big numbers, we can throw around small numbers. If this body decides that that is a good investment, 5 million, and it can see a return on that 5 million, it is a small amount in comparison. If it doesn't do that, I guess it becomes a big amount.
I asked this question to Reverend Tax, and just from your perch and watching how money comes in and managing cash. Mr. Byrne, in general and generally speaking, doesn't additional economic activity enhance our tax base going forward, and particularly if we can save businesses?
Yes, sir, in theory, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Duenas. Senator Calvo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I have no further questions nor remark. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Taidigui.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's kind of hard to determine, what kind of losses we're going to have for the next 5 years. Even though there is a cap of 5 million, we can anticipate at least in 25 million within a 5 million period of time. It also says here that $250,000. That it's a limit on what you can carry over if they were not able to avail themselves of the full amount. So let's say they actually had some like 500,000 that year, and then they were only able to avail themselves of 500,000. Well, then, let's say 100,000. So the remaining 400, the only amount that they're going to be able to, carry over is 250. Nothing more than that. They'll lose that amount. So, putting some safeguards in there so that we can be fiscally responsible when we're doing the budget and being able to know how much could possibly, be lost in revenue because of this. However, Mr. Chair, I had the opportunity to talk with somebody at GITA, and Mr. Carlos Berdallo actually was supposed to be here this afternoon. But I don't know what happened, cross wires, but I was able to talk to Ed Camacho, who oversees the QC. And he explained that this is more like a tax credit than it is a QC. Hence, that's the reason why they had moved the title or the section to a different numbering system that oversees more of a tax credit line. It's going to be, he says, crafty on how they're going to, colorful, I think is what the word he used, on how they're going to implement this to ensure that it almost seems like a QC, but there is going to be nothing in return. Usually QCs, there's a certain portion of savings that will go to the community, such as for art, for school, nonprofit organizations to contribute. Unfortunately, this will not do that. This is just straight down a, line of credit, tax credit. So I appreciate the one section line though that was put in there, that it not limited to the area, because first when I read it, I thought it just had to do with, tourist attraction things on along the side of the road, because there are quite a bit of areas that could be expanded for tourists that actually go in off the main road. In Santa Rita, there's a beautiful botanical garden there that tourists can go see, and that's way off the main road. So I'm glad to hear that that's coming to fruition. But can we afford this $5 million lost in revenue to the government of Guam yearly? Will it actually come up to $5 million? Maybe some of these people will not avail themselves of it. Just the fact of knowing that they could lose whatever they don't use above a $250,000 threshold. So, we're doing everything we can to try and push, the destination of Guam as the beautiful place to be, more so than, I'm glad to see that the money will be spent on Guam. Because one thing that, we want to make sure is people who visit here not only know the loving, caring people we are as Chamorros or people, Guamanians who are on Guam, but the destination they come to. We need places that are safe. We need a place that in the event they get hurt, they have a place to go to that they won't feel worried about. Many of us who go travel to other parts of the country, the first thing we think about is where's the nearest hospital just in case. So I think we are putting as much as we can financially toward Guam's destination and improving these attractions to our visitors on the island. However, we do have to take into consideration, right, Mr. Byrne, that this revenue, anticipated revenue, will not be there. Is that correct? Like the $5 million in tax credits?
Yes, it's an estimate. Just like a budget is an estimate. It's an expression of how you evaluate an investment and a return.
Yeah. And sometimes the return is greater than what we gave in tax credits to, in some circumstances. We give this amount, we get more in return. So I thank you so much, Mr. Byrne, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Tadigui. I'm actually getting texts saying $10 million for incentives, and we're breaking our neck over $5 million here. Maybe that's what we do this year. Just wipe out the incentives to make sure that, in fact, we could double this program probably. Senator Lujan, you're recognized. You're good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So that will conclude round one on Bill 228-38 COR. Panel, you're lucky. You get to go home a lot earlier than us. Thank you for being here today with us and participating with us and answering our questions. We appreciate everything that you do, and we hope you have a great dinner and a great evening. Thank you very much. Take care. We are in recess for until going to the second round.